success.
Follow the ridgeway, man.
Don't be creepy.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, bitch!
I did everything right and they indicted me. Illegal. Illegal. Illegal.
taxes did people pay?
Follow the rich white man.
Consequences.
It's a great day for being sad.
I don't want reality.
Don't be creepy.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
That's hot.
So hot right now.
Jesus, I say that.
Come on! I see that you know your judo well. I see that you know your judo well.
This is from 12 Rules for Life. Seems quiet.
Well, it's good to see all you folks. Once again, we have a whole lot in front of us to cover. Thankfully, we have each other in this moment of difficulty. Well, buckle up, space fans. Time to take a little ride through the abyss. Yes, and I know I'm starting a little early today, but also have a lot of stuff to look at. Where are we starting? Well, I don't think I have anything fun for us to start with today. I had a plan and it got ruined by the fact that I didn't pay attention to details. Well, c'est la vie. More pressing things to deal with. Okay, what are we gonna do? Let's look at this story here. This is relating to a case of gun violence from around 6 months ago. But a day ago, there was a, what do you call it? Something of a hearing, I suppose, held for the mass shooting that happened in Lewiston, Maine, I believe it was Lewiston. Hard to keep track of all these things, honestly. But let's look at this, where fellow reservists warned of Maine gunmen's plan for mass shooting.
I just saw a line of police cars and ambulances going every which way. And she goes, there's an active shooter. I knew it was coming. I knew it was him because of the places that she was naming off that were being hit. The way he was behaving was very threatening. He was escalating. It was just the totality of circumstance through
Aw, son of a
that
bitch.
leading all the way.
It happened again, huh? I see exactly what you're talking about. Hold on. Let's see, what is the problem? Once again, like clockwork, for no good reason, this happens. Fun, fun, fun. I do like this. At least it's consistent, right? Son of a bitch. Why? Okay. What is the deal? Am I okay? I'm fine. But the feed is completely cut out, probably from SpaceX satellites and Starlink garbage floating around space. Or we're being shadow banned and attacked in cyberspace. The lava lamp is the stream health indicator. You know what? You got a great point. It's a great point. It does seem to be the health indicator for the stream. Really, really astute observation there. Come on. Come on. Well, while this is doing whatever the fuck it's doing, I'm gonna grab a drink, I guess. Should have been ready for that anyway. For fuck's sake. You gonna send me pictures of space wine? Awesome. That really hurt. I just smashed the shit out of my knee. It's because of how early it is. It makes no sense. This has been happening every stream at the beginning of every fucking stream. And it literally happens 10 minutes in, like it's on a goddamn clock. I have no idea what it's about. It's very strange. It looks like it's trying to be better, but it's not doing a good job of being better. Like it wants to be better, but it's not. Alright, well this has fixed it on a couple of occasions. Let's try this. This is unacceptable. This is what I get for trying to start early, though. An even worse pause than usual. Wait. It's buffering better. I see better buffering. It's an improvement. Wait. Whoa. Oh, but now my browser has frozen. That's fun. I like that. It does make sense. I guess I'll have to restart the entire application. Oh, that's cool. I'm super into that. Why don't you just work? Come on, browser. This isn't that complicated. Alright, fine. Well, then I guess everybody gets to hang out at the bar for a minute. Alright, people, I gotta restart my browser, so... Oh, wait. I don't? Do I have to? No, I don't. It's working again. Hey. How nice is that? That's super great. So we're working. We're good. Stream health indicator going strong. 350 download. Okay. And still 10 upload because whatever. Okay, we're good. We're good. Just kick it. It's an idea. Did I drop my vape again? Well, I smashed my knee, and my vape was on the table. So, I think it, yeah. Well, I don't know if that counts as dropping, but it did fall to the floor. I'll say that much. Wait, is it still lagging? Frames dropped. 29%. Does seem to be better. All right, let's try this again. This is from testimony from reservists who were in the same unit as this gunman from 6 months ago in Maine. And here they discuss how they warned people, how they were concerned about this guy's behavior, and yet nothing was done.
I just saw a line of police cars and ambulances going every which way. And she goes, there's an active shooter. I knew it was coming. I knew it was him because of the places that she was naming off that were being hit. The way he was behaving was very threatening. He was escalating. It was just the totality of circumstance through the events leading all the way up to that moment where I was pretty convinced he was going to use harm. I've also seen him carry a handgun in the bowling alley prior to him going to, and I was like, what's that for? He's like, well, I'm not drinking, so it's fine.
He thought that I said
Jesus
something
Christ.
derogatory about him in the truck. And
It's fine. It's just fine. For fuck's sake. Where is the goddamn responsibility?
he like turned like 180 degrees, like his teeth were gritting, and when I turned around, like I could see he was pretty amped up, and I thought I was going to get punched in the back of the head. Like that's how like mad he was. And I kept telling him, I was like, I didn't say anything. Like, dude, like what did I say? And he couldn't tell me. Like he wouldn't tell me, and he's like, it's all right, I'll take care of it.
Testimony? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just mean testimony in the sense that it's public. It's a public hearing where they're speaking. I think that loosely qualifies as testimony. Okay. And just to remind us of what happened, let's look at this video from 6 months ago. Manhunt is underway for a shooter who killed at least 18 and wounded 13. The suspect is a trained firearms instructor and a specialist in the Army Reserve. Police are looking for 40-year-old Robert Card after 2 mass shootings in Lewiston, Maine. The first was at a restaurant, and the second was at a bowling alley.
Well, we were inside and just one night of bowling, and out of nowhere he just came in and there was a loud pop. Thought it was a balloon. I had my back turned to the door, and as soon as I turned and saw it was not a balloon, he was holding a weapon, I just booked it down the lane, and I slid basically into where the pins are and climbed up in the machine and was on top of the machines for about 10 minutes until the cops got there.
For fuck's sake.
Rid of the Second Amendment.
It's just insane. It's fucking insane. And it was 6 months ago, and it feels like it was not that long ago at all. Like, cause it happened, what, like right after, October 7th, I think it was. I can't remember the exact date of that, but it's right around the same time. All right, we're gonna move on to the Supreme Court here. To get us into that, let's listen to this Democracy Now! Report from 8 hours ago, entitled "The Supreme Court is a Product of Minority Rule." Ari Berman on America's undemocratic system.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. As the Supreme Court hears oral arguments in cases ranging from a ban on emergency abortions in Idaho to whether former President Donald Trump is immune from prosecution. Our next guest argues the Supreme Court is the product of minority rule. In his new book, journalist and author Ari Berman outlines how, for the first time in U.S. history, 5 of 6 conservative justices on the Supreme Court were appointed by Republican presidents who lost the popular vote and confirmed by senators elected by a minority of Americans. Ari Berman says the court's makeup is the product of 2 skewed institutions: how we elect our presidents through the Electoral College and how we appoint U.S. senators, both of which are flawed because they both violate one person, one vote. Ari Berman joins us now in our New York studio. His new book is called Minority Rule, the right-wing attack on the will of the people and the fight to resist it. He's the voting rights correspondent for Mother Jones magazine, also author of Give Us the Ballot, The Modern Struggle for Voting Rights in America. Welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us, Ari.
So great to see you, Amy.
Congratulations on the release of the book.
Thank you.
Why don't we start off with what happened this week, the oral arguments on whether Trump has immunity as president of the United States?
Well, it was a new low even for this Supreme Court, because it showed the extent that they're willing to enable Donald Trump's authoritarianism and rig the political process for Republicans. First off, you have to step back and realize how they took this case, right? They waited so long to take the case that they made it basically impossible for there to be a trial on Trump inciting the insurrection before the election. So that in and of itself was a huge victory for Donald Trump. And then when you got to the oral arguments themselves,
seriously, it's allowing him to politicize this in a way he wouldn't have been able to do if they had done this just a year ago, 6 months even. Sucks.
It was stunning, some of the stuff they were saying. They basically ignored the entire history of the insurrection, and they seemed more concerned about a president being prosecuted for something than a president inciting the insurrection. So Samuel Alito says this could be destabilizing to democracy if a president is prosecuted. What was destabilizing to democracy, Amy, was the effort to overturn the election and the insurrection at the Capitol. So it showed that the Supreme Court is a deeply, deeply undemocratic institution, and they will go to nearly any lengths to ensure that Republicans can win elections and that Donald Trump's authoritarianism will be allowed to go forward.
And talk more about presidential immunity, what it means.
What it means is that a president can do anything, basically, in office and can't be held accountable for it. I mean, they said very clearly the president could order the assassination of someone, and unless he is impeached by the Senate, he can get away with it. So remember when Trump said, I could kill someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it? Basically, that's what they were arguing before the Supreme Court. I mean, it was so incredible just how the Supreme Court was downplaying the most authoritarian act in modern American history and basically saying there should be no legal consequences for this, and that not only will there be no legal consequences, but voters won't even get to hear the evidence against Donald Trump that has been amassed by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith before the election. We're facing a situation where unless the voters themselves decide not to elect Donald Trump, there will be no accountability through the legal process for inciting an insurrection at the Capitol.
Yeah. Okay, there's more of this I want us to watch, but it's like 20 minutes long, so when did they start talking about, because they actually looped this conversation into what we were talking about last week regarding the implementation of the popular vote in instead of the Electoral College. So that definitely going to touch on here. Where does that start? I can't remember. I think it's like right here.
The country's largest state, Virginia, had 12 times the population of the country's smallest state, Delaware. Now, California, the largest state, has 67 times the population of the smallest state, Wyoming. That basically means that the Senate ensures minority rule by allowing essentially a minority of conservative Americans to elect a majority of the Senate when Republicans are in control.
You quote John Adams in Minority Rule, saying, if a majority were to control all branches of the government, debts, would be abolished first, taxes laid heavy on the rich and not at all on the others, and at last, downright equal vision of everything would be demanded and voted.
It just goes to show you that the founders were not chiefly interested in equality or even really democracy. They were concerned with protecting the power of people like themselves, which was wealthy white landowners. And they created exactly, wealthy white male landowners. And so a majority of Americans were excluded from the country's most important democratic document. Women, African Americans, Native Americans, even poor white people were excluded from these democratic institutions. And so it's a fundamental contradiction that the country's most important democratic document, the Constitution, was actually intended in many ways to make the country less democratic.
Talk about, countries like Delaware and the Constitutional Convention and what they threatened. Tiny countries versus Virginia, a much larger larger states.
Yeah, exactly. This was fascinating to me when I went back and researched the history, because we have all these things that are called compromises, right? The idea that each state should have the same number of senators is called the Great Compromise. But it's actually the Great Concession, because a lot of the architects of the Constitution, people like James Madison, hated the idea that each state would have the same number of senators. They wanted the Senate to be based on proportional representation. They wanted it to be an elite body, but they wanted to represent the greatest number of Americans. And basically the smaller states said, if you don't give us the same level of representation, we will leave the Union and find a foreign ally. We may rejoin England or join France. So they basically held a gun to the head of the delegates and said, give us this power or we won't ratify the Constitution. The same thing happened with the slave states, Amy, through the 3/5 clause, so that the southern states would have far more power in the House of Representatives and in the Electoral College. So what we see through the Constitution is that these smaller minority groups, not minority groups as we think of them in terms of voters of color, but small states, slave states, they basically had a huge advantage in the Constitution. And those undemocratic features, even as we've democratized since, have become pronounced in a way that they're threatening representative government today.
Let me turn to Paul Weyrich, who's described as the founding father of the conservative movement, speaking at a religious rights gathering in Dallas in 1980, 40 years ago.
Can't do it. Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote.
Piece of shit.
Elections are not won by a majority of people. Illegal. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
The significance of what Paul Weyrich is saying.
I mean, an incredible quote that just says the quiet part out loud and really lays out the strategy of the conservative movement, which is when fewer people participate in democracy, it benefits this shrinking conservative white minority. And what I argue in the book is that there's this historical anti-democratic institutions, but then there's all these new anti-democratic tactics that are layered onto it. So things like voter suppression, election subversion, gerrymandering, the censoring of history, all of which is being used to maintain white power as the country is shifting demographically, and that's what makes these anti-democratic tactics so dangerous.
Talk about the Electoral College.
Well, just such a fundamentally undemocratic institution. I tried to explain the Electoral College recently to my 9-year-old daughter, and she looked at me like I was crazy. The idea that someone could get more votes but lose the election is just crazy for her, right? Or to anybody when you explain it. And the Electoral College is also a fundamentally undemocratic institution. The founders did not trust the public to directly elect the president, so they created this incredibly undemocratic mechanism that would give elite white men the power to choose the president. And it was fundamentally flawed from the start because
hold on, where do they start actually talking about what needs to be done? I think it's closer to the end. I'm gonna start right here.
And that is the final part of your title, and the fight to resist it. Can you talk about the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact? I mean, Maine just joined. We're at there's 207 now, representing 207 votes going to 270, and the whole thing changes.
Exactly.
Explain what that is.
The idea is that if states that would add up to 270 electoral college votes, which is what you need to win the presidency, would pledge to appoint their electors to the popular vote, that would then abolish the Electoral College. Now, I'm sure the conservative Supreme Court would want to weigh in on this, but it's a mechanism to do an end round around amending the Constitution, because the Constitution is so difficult to amend. And what I talk about in the book is, as you say, the fight back and this long push and pull between democratic and anti-democratic forces throughout American history. And we're at another major tipping point today where there's forces that are trying to constrict American democracy and there's forces that are trying to expand American democracy. And that's really the choice facing the country right now.
Be on the side of expansion.
Where does Trump and...
Everybody needs to be on the side of expansion of democracy, not the contraction of it. That is my prescription for the situation. But also, let's take a look at this real quick. Regarding all this, I think this is where the graph is. No, it's not. Oh, there it is. Okay. There. This over. Be bigger.
Phrasing.
Okay. Let's look at this. So this, oh god damn it, it's kind of small. Be even bigger than that. Son of a, it's not letting me zoom in on this. I don't understand what's wrong. Fuck it. Anyways, we talked about this, like I said, like a week or two ago. And I'm glad that we got to bring it up naturally by way of talking about the Supreme Court. And I just want to drive this point home. We only need a small handful of states. We need 61 more electoral college votes, quote unquote, in states, like in worth of states as they are represented in the electoral college, and we will get to 270. We are at 209 right now. And states that I see as potentially being on the fence about this, at least, or potential I guess targets for this compact are New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and Wisconsin. If I'm not mistaken, that is enough to get us to 270. Let me just make sure once again. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. Just because this is important enough, I don't want to fuck it up with doing the math in my head. I'm going to use a calculator here. Yeah, if we just get those 5 states, that is enough to get the Electoral College abolished. And so just remember that. If you happen to know people that live in that state, any of those states, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or New Hampshire, tell them about this. Tell them to reach out to the representatives. Tell them they would like their votes to count. Okay. Moving along. Oh, I gotta set this one up. Where does this conversation actually begin? Where do I actually want this? We're gonna watch this CNN video where a Pulitzer-winning historian, whom I'm actually not familiar with, he says that delayed Trump immunity ruling would be a disaster. I think his name is Jack Rakoff. I'm going to look him up. But let's listen to this conversation while I'm doing that. I think this... Right here. This is where we're going to start it. Okay. At least I think it is.
Key points that there were a number of very specific matters that one should focus on, and Justice Alito, when he intervened in his own way, kept trying to deny the importance of the immediate issues to kind of speculate about what might happen in the future. We have an urgent issue right now.
Hey, well done, chat. You just got 20 likes. That's going to unlock Captain Benjamin Sisko here. Here we go. It's a little Cisco for you. Okay, back to this.
Needs to be resolved. We can worry about the future when the future comes. We have to get through the current crisis of the Republic, which is why the court should be acting expeditiously.
Well said. I mean, listen to this exchange as well between Justice Elena Kagan and Sauer about this hypothetical question of prosecuting a former president who, for example, staged a coup.
I don't feel like leaving office. I want to stage a coup. Is that immune?
If it's an official act, there needs to be...
Okay, before we get too far, I'm going to go back and make two different points. Okay, first off, this guy, after having looked him up, not only did he win the Pulitzer Prize for History and the Cox Book Prize in the 90s, he's also currently the professor of History and American Studies and professor of Political Science at Stanford. He also taught at Colgate and NYU. However, this thing that we're about to talk about now is something I literally talked about yesterday. When I heard this, I shouted out loud to myself in the space station. I literally said this. But here we go. Let's listen to this, talking about what would happen if a president potentially tried to, I don't know, incite an actual, didn't leave, incited a coup. Like, he technically already did try to incite a coup, but then gave up halfway, seemingly. But what if he stayed in the White House? What if he enlisted the Secret Service or some other branch of the military to? What would the guidelines around that be if what the counsel for Trump is arguing were to be upheld?
Staged a coup.
I don't feel like leaving office. I want to stage a coup. Is that immune?
If it's an official act, there needs to be impeachment and conviction beforehand because the framers viewed that kind of
If
very
it's an
low
official
risk.
act, is it an official act?
If it's an official act, it's impeachment.
Is it an official act?
On the way you've described that hypothetical, it could well be.
Now, of course, in your amicus brief with other historians, you forcefully are.
Sorry, we can't get past that. Okay, chat, we can't get past that argument. If the Supreme Court upholds this, it is fucking insane. Okay? Did you hear what he just said? He just claimed that a coup is an official act. Okay?
Illegal. You again, assertion that a president can only be prosecuted only after being impeached and convicted. So what do you make of his answer that he gave today? And I would note he also doubled down earlier on this assertion that a president could order, say, SEAL Team 6 under an official action to even hurt a political rival.
From a historian's perspective, we don't deal in hypotheticals. We do in things that actually happened and views that people actually adopted. I think the most important thing we'd say is that in the 17th and 18th century, both England and America, the dominant theme in constitutional thinking was how do you cabin, how do you control, how do you restrain, how do you constitutionalize executive power? Sauer, the attorney, made a big point of appealing to the vesting clause of Article 2, which says the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. That clause has been carrying a lot of interpretive weight recently, probably more than it really deserves because it's adopted very late and without much discussion. But if you ask the question, what is the nature of the executive power that is vested in the president? I think the historian's first definition would be that he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And I think the best commentary on this actually came from John Dickinson at the Federal Convention, where he says that the real virtue of vesting the executive power in a single person, it's not the question of acting with energy and with dispatch. Those were two terms that the framers used. It's also the question of responsibility. So the idea of recognizing this open-ended, unconstrained, in certain ways unimaginable degree of immunity, there's no way you can square that with the dominant value of Anglo-American thinking from the late 17th century down into the time of the Revolution and the Constitution.
Okay, that's enough legal history for you all, I think, at least for now. At least going back that far, at least for me too. I'm like, okay, thank you, John, Jack, thank you, Jack. But thank you. We think we get it. I feel like I get it slightly less now. Just teasing, just teasing. Fact is that they're claiming that a coup is an official act, and it's probably one of the dumbest legal arguments I've ever heard. Makes no fucking sense. It's the opposite of that. Oh, by the way, Atticus Among Us, I noticed it's your birthday today, so because of that, everybody, let's do this real quick. Shit, where did I put it? Hold on. Here you go, pal.
Late Marilyn Monroe.
Atticus Among Us. Atticus Among Us. There you go. There you go. Alright, back to the news. Just gotta celebrate the birthdays. Gotta celebrate those chat birthdays. Okay, what's next? What do I got? Okay. Actually, I'm gonna skip this one. We're gonna go to the next one. This is from an hour ago from NBC News, where 2 new witnesses testify in Trump hush money trial.
Well, for most part of the week, he has sat in a New York courtroom, a former president, listening to the claims about the relationships and the money prosecutors say are at the heart of the criminal case against him. Late today, Donald Trump's executive assistant took the stand. Here's Laura Jarrett.
Tonight, the prosecution closing out the first week of testimony by offering the jury a peek inside the inner workings of the Trump Organization from one of the people who knows the former president best. The state briefly calling Rona Graf, Mr. Trump's longtime executive assistant, to the stand this afternoon. Graf confirming contacts were saved on the company's computer system for Karen McDougal and Stormy, an apparent reference to Stormy Daniels.
No kidding.
Prosecutors say both women were shopping stories of sex with Mr. Trump ahead of the 2016 election, encounters he denies.
Are you nervous about Stormy Daniels' testimony?
At the heart of the case, a $130,000 payment Michael
Okay, we know what's at the heart of the case, but I just figured we would keep up with what's happening. More people will be testifying and have testified to the validity of the stories of Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels, including people that worked at Trump Tower. Okay, what is next? Okay, we're going to quickly look at this one. Actually, no, I kind of do want to look at this one. Yeah, okay, this is from 5 hours ago. Quote-unquote bravado for his base. John Dean on Trump saying he'll testify. Which I would love. I would love if he would testify. That'd be hilarious.
Former tabloid executive David Pecker is set to return to the witness stand to continue his fourth day of testimony. Earlier today, he underwent cross-examination by Trump's defense team before facing redirect questioning by prosecutors. Pecker's been on the stand for just under 10 hours over the course of these 4 days. We're joined now by John Dean. He's a CNN contributor, former White House counsel in the Nixon administration. He also wrote the book, Authoritarian Nightmare, Trump and His Followers. John, thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with us. So David Pecker, nearly 10 hours on the stand. What moments most stand out to you from his testimony?
Well, I think he's a good witness from what I've read, and I've read the transcript of the first couple of days. He's an excellent witness. When he doesn't know something, he admits it. When it's something unpleasant that he'd probably rather not address, he openly addresses it. And so he's going to be a very credible witness, and I think the redirect today cleaned up any doubts in the jury's mind.
Much of the testimony so far is effectively setting the table for the prosecution's argument, right? We haven't heard much about Stormy Daniels.
I forgot this one's longer than I remember. Let's get it to the point where they actually talk about this. Where do they fucking talk about this? Fucking hell. Could have sworn it was like around here.
That he would testify if it's necessary. Do you think his defense attorneys are probably trying to talk him out of that?
I suspect they are. He is not a good witness. The few times he's been on the stand and in depositions at some length, we can see he's not a good witness. So this is a little bravado for his base because there are obviously political implications of great dimension for him in this trial and the others.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Seriously though, Trump is a terrible witness for himself. It would be so funny to see him try and this. What sucks is no cameras. We don't actually get to see it. We just have to. We would have to imagine it vicariously through others, which sucks. But I can't imagine that he would do anything that would be helpful to himself. So I definitely support him. I think his legal team's crazy. He should definitely go on the stand. It's just where my head's at. Okay, let's move along. Got a few things to look at here in America before we move along. That's it for Supreme Court and other court-related stuff, generally speaking. Kinda. Hard to say completely. But let's look at this one. This is from 2 hours ago. Denver 7. Colorado lawmakers to consider major property tax plan as session nears end.
All right, a live look now at the state capitol, where the 2024 legislative session will wrap up in about a week and a half. And with time running out, lawmakers are set to consider a major property tax bill.
Denver 7's Brandon Richard is taking a closer look at what it could mean for homeowners.
Well, none of the lawmakers in this building are training for the Summer Olympics, at least that we can tell, but they will have to work at lightning speed if they want to get all of their work done by the deadline. And that includes considering a major property tax bill.
So we're looking at an actual value subtraction.
With a deadline to adjourn quickly approaching, Colorado lawmakers are set to consider a major property tax proposal.
Let's look at the first section here together, and then we'll kind of move through them in order.
A draft proposal by State Senator Chris Hansen centers around letting homeowners exempt 10% of their primary home's value, up to $75,000. But as Hansen noted in a Property Tax Commission hearing on Friday, there are still many details to work out.
There's no introduced legislation at this stage, working toward that goal, of course, to introduce something next week.
Scott Wasserman with the Bell Policy Center has watched the Property Tax Commission's work closely over the last several months.
The important thing is that we not use a sledgehammer when a scalpel is needed.
He says it's important lawmakers provide targeted property tax relief.
There's a focus on lower value homes, right? I think that, we're really trying to make sure that low and middle income families that own homes aren't strained.
Exactly.
I think once you start to get into the higher home values, it becomes a different conversation.
He says
Exactly. That was really the part of it that I wanted to watch. Listen to this guy's take on that situation, because the fact is they barely give you any information about what they're doing until he brings up the fact that it's just kind of across the board and there's no like sliding scale to it at all, and it should benefit lower income homeowners, right? Than it should super high income homeowners, right? And people with multi-million-dollar homes versus, it's just, I don't know. Maybe that's just crazy thinking over here. Me, okay. So means testing. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah, kind of. Fact is, if you take away, 10% of taxes from someone with a multi-million-dollar home versus somebody with a much more modest home, right? Like the amount of tax dollars we're talking about being taken out of the economy and out of the system are, did they say it's capped at 75,000? That's insane. They said it, I didn't hear that part of it. I must have missed that. I was reading multiple things while listening. That's on me. Thank you for pointing that out. Let's look at this. This is from 12 hours ago from the AP. This is disturbing. How the medical syringe became a tool of control when police restrain people.
Guess who gets ketamine?
Yeah, seriously.
EMS, if they aren't careful, can simply become an extension of the police's handcuffs, of their weapons, of their nightsticks.
If we don't change the training, change the protocols, then we all bear responsibility for future deaths.
He's dead. He's just dying.
EMT's job is to save lives, not take lives.
Really?
Police have an arsenal of tactics to restrain people. Lesser known is chemical sedation and the role paramedics play in police encounters. The use of injections to calm agitated people has quietly grown.
It's strong. We had one guy, they gave him 3 shots.
A 3-year investigation found that more than 1,000 people died after a police encounter involving force not intended to be lethal. Nearly 1 out of 10 of those cases involved sedatives. Cardiac or respiratory arrest often occurred within minutes of injection.
Is he knocked out or he ain't dead, is he?
Hey, wake up!
After they gave him medication, he started to pass out, and now he's not breathing.
The AP found that authorities often don't scrutinize the use of sedatives, making their exact role in the deaths unclear. Medical examiners frequently blamed health conditions or other drugs in their systems, as was the case for Demetrio Jackson.
Outgoing.
Well, I think those statistics are probably enough for us to know that this shit is fucked and shouldn't be happening. And the more I think about it, the more that I realize that, you know, if someone is subdued enough by police that an EMT can come in and administer ketamine by way of a syringe, that person's subdued enough that they don't need that, right? It essentially means we don't need that to be done against people's will, right? Just in general, like you know, if you can manage to hold somebody still enough to be able to manage to do an injection properly, right? What are we doing them for exactly? And by we, I mean the police. Okay. But the story itself is quite harrowing that this woman tells about her son. It's pretty disturbing, honestly. So if you want to watch the rest of it, it is on the Associated Press. It just came out. Okay, how far are we? I need 500 subs to apply for monetization. There's like levels to monetization. Like 1,000's like the real YouTube partner, but like the initial application you can do and receive some amount of benefits for that at 500. If I'm not misunderstanding it. They also have no idea what drug the person's on. Exactly. No, you're just shooting somebody up with some very powerful, literally animal tranquilizers, right? Without knowing their medical history, without knowing what sort of prescription drugs they might be on, and how they might interact with that, and or what their mental state actually is. And it's an insane practice that's based on kind of, you know, like just nonsense, right? Like there's definitely some amount of science is being done that seems to be positive about using ketamine in a therapeutical, or in like what's it called, like a clinical setting for like mental health and other sorts of things. I'm not even that familiar with all of it, but I am aware of it to some degree. But it just randomly administering it to people on the street for non-therapeutic purposes, I don't think there's any really good information for that, actually. And it seems like it's doing a lot more harm than good. So, yeah, we should stop using horse tranquilizers on people that are already restrained. Usually, from what I've seen, by like multiple police officers at a time. Okay. Let's move to this one from 5 hours ago, where a Los Angeles-bound Delta flight makes emergency return to New York City after an evacuation slide falls off of the plane.
The FAA is investigating another incident in the sky this morning. A Delta flight carrying 167 passengers had to turn around after departing JFK Airport due to an emergency equipment malfunction. The plane was headed to LA, but it returned after about 30 minutes. Delta says the emergency slide had separated from the aircraft. No one was hurt.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube.
So, they did not give a lot of information for that. I tried to look into it further. I also struggled to find more information on it. It did appear to be a slightly older Boeing plane from the... I can't even remember what source it was that I found that on now. I should have kept it, but I was moving so fast earlier today. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Boeing, though. But it was an older one, so it may be a different story we're talking about. We might be talking about Delta keeping their fleet longer than they should. So I'm not going to rush to any conclusions on it, but it just seems like more... It is just continuing to erode public trust in air transportation, you know? These companies need to be more responsible with safety. You shouldn't be having literal safety parts of the plane falling off randomly. It's not good. It's not good. Stay streaming, you'll return. Okay, Brandy. Sounds good to me. Alright, now let's look at this piece from Reuters from 11 hours ago. ByteDance claims that they will shut TikTok down in the United States rather than to sell it.
US lawmakers have set the stage for a battle over TikTok.
Thank you, Mr. President.
They've given Chinese owner ByteDance until mid-January to divest the social network or face a nationwide ban. But Reuters sources say the company has another idea. They say it will shut TikTok down in the US rather than sell it. That's because the algorithm that powers the app is seen as ByteDance's most valuable asset. It drives other platforms owned by the firm, and sources say it's seen as more advanced than products from rivals like Tencent. Separating it from TikTok as part of any sale looks to be legally and technically all but impossible. Instead, ByteDance could just shut the app down in the US and live without its 170 million users there. Late Thursday...
I'm just going to pause it right there because I looked this up. Now 170 million users sounds like a fuck ton, but the fact is, I did not realize just how big TikTok is. I guess I'm like a elder millennial, so like I never really got on the bandwagon with the TikTok, so I was unaware of this, but it's less than 20% of the number of TikTok users in the world. It's crazy. I can't remember the exact number now, but it's over 1 billion users, I think. Hold on, let me look this up again. God damn it. Why didn't... 1.7 billion users. So it's actually, I'm sorry, it's less than 10% of the number of users worldwide. I said 20, didn't I? Sorry. Less than 1/10 of all of people on TikTok. So really, the government is putting TikTok into a situation where they may just cancel everybody that's in the United States, or just not permit them to use the site, to use the app. So that is, that is a bad situation for a lot of people, especially young TikTok creators, who are just trying to make a way in this crazy world.
The company would only say that it had no plan to sell TikTok. Earlier in the week, app boss Shuzi Chu had vowed to win a legal battle over the possible ban.
Rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. We are confident and we will keep fighting for your rights in the courts. The facts and the Constitution are on our side, and we expect to prevail again.
The US threat is driven by concerns TikTok could be used to spy on Americans, a suggestion the company strongly rejects. Washington first sought to ban it back in 2020 during the Trump administration, but was blocked by the courts. Now White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre says a sale is realistic.
We believe that it is possible. There are already American...
You should be in top three. Top three of what? What are we talking about? Is there some sort of competition happening I'm unaware of in chat? Alright, enough Corinne. Jean-Pierre. I've had enough of you. Okay. This story baffled me. This one really confused the fuck out of me. If I were one of these people, I would be genuinely reconsidering this whole plan. But, hey. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. This is from a day ago, where NASA astronauts arrive in Florida for Boeing's first human space flight. I would be running in the other direction.
This spacecraft is awesome, right? And I worked with our other friends for a little while too, and that spacecraft is also awesome. I think in our office, people know that this one, there's a lot to know, there's a lot to do, there's a lot to be able to
Well, let's hope it's better than Boeing airplanes currently.
learn from the spacecraft. I honestly think it's a great stepping stone as we're getting ready to leave low Earth orbit and go back to the moon. It has a lot of similar things that Orion has.
Okay.
So I think if I was a young astronaut and I was thinking about going to the moon, I think I'd put my hand up and say, I want to fly Starliner.
My question is, will the door fly off mid-flight? That's my question. I don't know why it's the first thing that comes to mind, but it genuinely is. And I have my concerns. I think rightly founded, too. Let's hope they put more care and concern into these 4 astronauts or 5 astronauts that are going up than they did the millions of billions of people who, well, how many people fly? I don't know exactly the numbers, but let's just say easily millions of people who fly in Boeing aircraft every year. For fuck's sake. Stay out of space, Boeing. I don't need you on my list, too. For fuck's sake. Okay, moving along. To the climate now. This is from 3 days ago from DW, a German broadcasting company. Climate crisis. How oil companies hushed up research results. A DW documentary. Isn't that the spaceship made by Boeing? Yes, that's what I was saying. Yeah. Didn't I say Boeing? I could have sworn I said Boeing. Okay, here we go. Play. Go, web, go.
I feel like there's always a connection with my ancestors here. I know that every piece of the bark here, every strip of it, every layer that's inside every ring of the tree, there's a part of their DNA, there's a part of their energy here, because they were here when this tree stood where grass and things were around it, instead of now where it's holding on to, it looks like its final days.
Just a few years
Such a depressing image.
ago, a maritime forest stood here in the U.S. state of South Carolina. Saltwater has killed the trees. Queen Quet, as she's known, is the elected leader of the Gullah-Geechee people, an African-American community in the coastal southeast. They've lived on this land for centuries.
You need only get to the shoreline anywhere here to see how climate impacts us. We have seen the sea levels rising. we have experienced more intense hurricanes than we've ever experienced in my entire life. And so for years, we were saying to people, to politicians, come look at what's happening. There is something wrong here.
Rapidly rising sea levels are one of the most visible consequences of global warming. Gas and oil companies have known from...
Are there really 100,000 flights per day? $100,000 flights. Yeah, that's what Google says. I'll take that. That's insane.
Than 40 years that fossil fuels are linked to climate change. But they didn't change course.
Nope.
Quite the opposite, in fact.
No, we did not.
The most shock.
Okay. There's definitely more to this, and we are gonna skip through some of this. Because the focus of this is really about the cover-up by oil companies on data about the climate crisis. The climate crisis. Oh my God. Trying to do too many things at once. And I start saying crazy things.
Industry's efforts to suppress the truth about climate change. That was in 2019.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Dr. Hoffert, you're first.
A chief witness was Professor Martin Hoffert with his calculations from the year 1982.
Dr. Hoffert, your work with Exxon was focused on the carbon cycle and climate modeling. I have a slide up here. So in 1982, 7 years before I was even born, Exxon accurately predicted that by this year, 2019, the Earth would hit a carbon dioxide concentration of 415 parts per million and a temperature increase of 1 degree Celsius. Dr. Hoffert, is that correct?
We were excellent scientists.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. So they knew. They knew.
Yep.
And I presume they knew what some of the consequences of that 1 degree Celsius change would be. Some of them, not all.
Absolutely. I would like to have an opportunity to discuss that if someone asks me.
Hoffert said that his findings had been passed on to top Exxon executives. He quit in 1987, 6 years after starting his consultancy work for Exxon, because he realized that his research was not prompting any change in company strategy.
I was there because I thought that I could, this was very naive of me. I thought that I could influence them to change their business plan. But you must understand that Exxon was producing quarterly earnings of tens of billions of dollars. The stockholders were making a lot of money. So if you put yourself in that position, I have a company where I'm very profitable. My stockholders are making a lot of money. However, we're destroying the planet. The people would say, well, I won't be here in 20 or 30 years.
Jesus, I say that.
Okay, there's definitely still more of this that I want to watch, but it's like a 30-minute long documentary. So there's no way we are going to be watching this whole thing. Let's start back here, I would say. Actually, no, right here. Oops.
Anything that raised the public awareness or raised political energy around this issue, they tried to kill it.
The first seeds of doubt were sown in 1988. In this internal Exxon memo, A company spokesperson recommended downplaying climate science findings.
Jesus fucking Christ. It's an actual conspiracy. It's a literal conspiracy to lie to the public and to line their fucking pockets.
The uncertainty in scientific conclusions regarding the potential enhanced greenhouse effect.
For many years, the oil industry has pursued precisely this strategy. The then chair of Exxon, the world's biggest oil company, put it this way in his speech to oil industry representatives in 1996.
Proponents of the global warming theory say that higher levels of greenhouse gases, especially CO2, are causing world temperatures to rise and that burning fossil fuels is the reason. But scientific evidence remains inconclusive as to whether human activities affect the global climate.
Fucking liar. This dude is just straight up lying. And they have the evidence that it's just, they literally knew. They did the science on it and then said, fuck it.
So there's simply no reason to take drastic action now.
Illegal.
In December 1997, the oil giants found themselves under increased pressure. In Kyoto, 192 states, including the U.S., signed a historic agreement in which they called for a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions.
The situation is serious. Climate change could be catastrophic for our children and grandchildren.
So hot right now.
The Kyoto Protocol represented a threat to business for the U.S. oil companies. Lower emissions would mean less demand for their products and ultimately endanger their business model.
Okay, I think we fucking get it. There was a systematic cover-up and conspiracy by oil companies to hide the science from the public, to spread misinformation and lies and propaganda about the oil industry and the climate. And that's a great deal of why we are in the situation that we are in right now. Is there any more of this that I wanted to look at? I think there was one more piece of testimony that they had in here from, yes, from the Rokana. I'm gonna watch this little snippet.
And I said, we've got to get them in to explain this. And people said, you can't get the CEOs, they will never come. And so I said, we'll subpoena them.
The company executives had no choice but to take part. It was October 28, 2021. The Oversight Committee chair opened the session.
The committee will come to order. This is a historic hearing. For the first time, top fossil fuel executives are testifying together before Congress under oath about the industry's role in causing climate change and their efforts to cover it up.
You can either come clean, admit your misrepresentations and ongoing inconsistencies, and stop supporting climate disinformation, or you can sit there in front of the American public and lie under oath.
The top executives stuck to their strategy. In their online appearances at the hearing, which took place during the COVID pandemic, they stressed their concerns about the environment and their efforts to reduce the use of fossil fuels.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today to discuss the urgent need.
I watched all this. We're not going to watch this testimony from these people. It is just thoroughly disgusting. They all say just pure garbage, just lies, stuff that they have concocted in a back room to make themselves look good and to mislead us about what's really contributing to climate change, what their factors are in this, and it's just nonsense. Okay, moving along. This is from 3 days ago. When I saw this, I somehow didn't see it. In the last 3 days, I found shocking. But the White House is considering declaring a national climate emergency.
The White House is considering declaring a national climate emergency to unlock federal powers and stifle oil development. That's according to Bloomberg. Meanwhile, the administration is announcing several projects this Earth Week. The plans include solar energy conservation, clean water, green transportation, and cutting pollution. For some analysis, we want to bring on Melissa Lott. She's a professor at Columbia University's Climate School. She also hosts the Big Switch podcast, which explains how to rebuild our energy systems. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me what a climate emergency is and what that might entail.
So when we talk about the potential for the president to declare a climate emergency, what it's saying is, you know what, there's a national emergency going on, and I need extra powers to be able to respond to it to protect the U.S. This is a contentious decision. If it's made, this discussion has come up many times, but if it is made, then the president would have additional powers in the short term, almost immediately.
And what might those powers look like, and who would be the first to be nervous about new powers the president might have? In other words, I mean, would it be fossil fuel companies? How might that work out?
Yes.
You think that the Supreme Court will block the national climate emergency? Jesus fucking Christ, that sounds too close to the truth. I hate you. Let's hope not. Okay, let's just stay
the president does
mildly
this, he would have
optimistic.
access to a lot of different powers. I know what's being talked about is the ability to control how we're able to sell fossil fuels. Are we able to export it? Are we able to send it to different parts of the world? Now, obviously, the countries, the organizations that depend on those exports, they would be concerned about it, as would companies. But that's not all.
No. They're using it for oil. Did you not hear it? I'm gonna go back because where was it that they said it? Son of a bitch. But basically, I know that for the first, year and a half, 2 years of Biden's presidency, he totally did the exact polar opposite of this, and he signed he signed a historical number of new gas expansion contracts, essentially, for companies, gas extractors, right? And no, they are essentially putting a moratorium on all new gas expansion for, I guess, the rest of, I don't know. It wasn't clear. Maybe it was just for the year, but let's hope not, because that would be stupid.
What's being talked about is the ability to control how we're able to sell fossil fuels. Are we able to export it? Are we able to send it to different parts of the world? Now, obviously, the countries, the organizations that depend on those exports, they would be concerned about it, as would companies. But that's not all that the president can do. The president can do a lot to bolster up the manufacturing, the production of clean energy technologies, and combined with some other powers that he has,
as long as it's not methane,
he could move the needle when it comes to climate change.
I hate it when people say clean energy, because half the time they mean methane and shit, and that is not clean. But yeah, hopefully when she says clean, she's thinking solar, wind, hydro, nuclear, non-hydrocarbon creating stuff.
Emissions. So it's a mixed bag. I will say, when you talk to companies, uncertainty is the worst. If I can plan around it, I'm happy, even if it's maybe not the outcome I wanted. So the uncertainty of, is this going to happen, when might it happen, and how might it be implemented is a stress point.
Let me ask you about the Climate Corps.
Okay. Anyways, that's enough. I just thought it was an important step. I don't know to what degree it will be followed, implemented, whatever. But it's certainly the sort of steps we need to be fucking taking. Perfectly frank, 2 years. We were talking about it recently. We have 2 fucking years. I can't remember who said it. It was the UN Climate Agency. It was somebody from there, I believe, who said we have 2 years to fucking make massive changes. Or by 2030, we're going to have some drastic fucking problems. Because, yeah, we've been talking about 2030, talking about 2050, stuff like that for decades. And we're 6 years, less than 6 years from 2030. And I think you can do the math on the rest. But, it's all these deadlines are coming in hot.
So hot right now.
This is from 4 days ago from CBS, where, according to a CBS poll, most Americans support efforts to address climate change.
Welcome back to America Decides. A new CBS poll finds a large majority of the public are in favor of the U.S. taking steps to address the issue of climate change. CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, joins us now for a recurring segment with our CBS News Data Desk to analyze what our polling means and what it means for the presidential race.
Okay, so I just wanted really just to look at this one poll. Actually, no, there's two polls. I'm not even going to listen to what they have to say about the polls. But 70% of people in the United States are for reducing climate change, right? And we all talk about what needs to be done to reduce climate change every single fucking day here. So, you know, that stuff's not really happening to the level that we need it. And if we had a popular vote instead of electoral college, I think we could probably get there much faster. Although we have 2 years right now, so really it doesn't matter. Really, it's got to not matter who's in office at this point. We have to force them to start doing the right stuff, right? Like, that's where we're at. The next president is the one that's going to decide this. So it doesn't matter who it is. We just got to force them to do it. I'd point out it's probably going to be easier to force Biden than it is going to be to force Donald Trump, who I don't think even believes in climate change. Okay, now let's move on to looking at some stories here from, oh wait, why am I still in this thing? Oh right, because I was going to also look at this other poll, which was frustrating. Okay, this poll, let's look at this poll. This is a different poll entitled, what do you think efforts, actually no, I don't think that's what it's titled. This is the name of the poll. But it's basically, it's framed this way. Do you think the price of gas is hard or difficult? Or do you think the price of gas is not difficult? And it's 45 to 19. That does leave like 35% or something like that undecided, I guess. But that's problematic. And people need to, this is part of the problem with capitalism and the way that people frame things in their minds. But the fact is that people need to stop thinking about the price of gas. And we need to stop putting gas in things, generally speaking. I know it sounds crazy, but we really do. and I know that the price of gas is difficult, but what we need is an easy transition away from all of it, all of the gas. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I really didn't like that when I saw it. I was like, yo, we need to wake more people up to what we're talking about and stop framing things in this way. Anyway, let's look at some actual current effects of climate change happening both in the United States and abroad. Before I take an intermission, we are moving at an okay pace, actually. I'm not too mad at that. Alright, this is from 3 hours ago. News Center, Maine. Storm damage to coastal infrastructure raises concerns for Maine lobstermen.
Lobster season in Maine is fast approaching, but storm damage to piers and other property are raising concerns about whether lobstermen will be ready to get out on the water.
Last week, Maine lawmakers approved a supplemental budget, including $60 million for storm damage relief. $25 million of that will help working waterfront property owners pay for repairs. But there's a problem. Those funds will not be available until mid-July, when lobster fishing season is at its peak. Some pier owners are paying out of pocket for repairs until they can get reimbursed by that state funding. Others, however, do not have the means to build new docks. Organizations that support fishermen are concerned about how the delayed damage relief funding will impact small family fishing businesses.
A property that serves.
Yeah, well, it's not good. I don't know exactly how big the lobster business is in Maine, dollar-wise, but considering it's one of the most recognizable things, like if you think, me personally, I don't know about you, but whenever I think Maine, like the second word is lobster, okay? Nothing against people from Maine, but it's just a fact. And and is, I think, one of the most recognizable exports. So yeah, I gotta say, it's probably bad for Maine. Wow, we're making climate change jokes in chat. Okay, okay. You know, keep it light. Keep it light. Let's look at a couple of videos here in Texas where a tornado touched down. I think multiple tornadoes touched down, actually. This is from 3 hours ago, where a live ABC anchor spotted a twister touching down. Next, please. What are you doing? Go web go. Oh my god.
Oh, there it is. Tornado. Where? Keep going, keep going. Oh, right there. Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground. We've got a tornado on the ground, guys. Tornado on the ground. Can you hear me? Tornadoes on the ground. Raul's going to turn the camera. Tornado funnel on the ground with this storm just to the north of Rice, Texas. Right there. It is on the ground. Can you see it in your screen? There it is. What we have is a perfect funnel. We are looking, we're on this road, we're pointing north just west of Interstate 40.
Climate change pickup lines, we need to repopulate the earth. Jesus Christ. I don't know how I could not support that.
And there's a tornado that appears to be on the north side of the town of Rice.
Because the fact is, if it works, it's a beautiful pairing.
Just north of the town, and it's moving away from us. So we're looking in an east-northeasterly direction from our location on the north side of Rice, Texas. So that is a tornado that appears to be in contact with the ground that is in that particular vicinity, and you clearly see it on our camera here as we're looking at it right now. There's actually two lowered areas there. There's one to the left as well, but the one in...
Okay, so the footage in this is kind of bad. They don't have a great vantage point of what's going on. So let's go to this next video from CBS Texas from 3 hours ago. Severe weather rips through north and central Texas. By the way, are we getting close on Jessica Fletcher?
Look at that. Are we out of the way? Well, have a look at this, folks. This is just one.
By the way, we're only 5 likes away from Jessica Fletcher. We've already got Bacula, we got Cisco, but we need Jessica.
Look at that. Are we out of the way? Well, have a look at this, folks. This is just one of several tornadoes spotted today south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This was east of the city of West, out in McLennan County. Wow.
Yeah, really incredible images out there. The First Alert Weather Team called a weather alert today because of the elements in the atmosphere right now. They're just dangerous storms. The tornado, this tornado, caught by First Alert storm chaser Mike Prendergrass.
And Mike was also in Frost when another tornado touched down. That one happened at about 2:40 this afternoon. Just before 3, no reports yet of any serious injuries, but there is some damage to report. Most of North Texas right now remains under a tornado watch at this hour. And as we say hello to you here at 4 o'clock on this Friday.
That's right. The first.
Okay. We're just gonna look at this report here from this guy.
North Texas, and as we look at First Alert radar, some of those strong thunderstorms still impacting our area with severe thunderstorm warnings. That continues for Ellis and Navarro counties until about 4:30 this afternoon. We could have winds in excess of 65 miles an hour. Hail likely smaller than a quarter. Also, we're seeing the severe thunderstorm warning for Hunt, Kaufman, Rains, and Van Zandt counties, and that's until about 4:30 as well. These storms are rain makers, wind makers.
So yeah, and I believe the storm is still traveling northeast in the direction of Ohio right now. So if you live anywhere in that sort of, I guess that funnel right there, you may want to prepare for potential storms coming your direction. May have changed. I am not a meteorologist, just Just saying. Maybe check your weather. What's next? Geodragon. Another dragon? My god, so many dragons. Okay, this one's funny to help us kind of decompress from some of the stuff we've already dealt with here. This is from 2 days ago, where residents in oh shit, where is this? I forget where this is. I think it's in South Carolina, perhaps. Residents called police over cicadas. Which, if you're unfamiliar, they're the very loud bugs that come out every, like, 14 years and make obnoxious noises. Some people like it, but...
Well, new this morning, the sound of roaming cicadas is becoming so loud, some folks in South Carolina are calling their local sheriff's office. Yep, you heard it right. They're calling the police. It's happening up in Newberry County. Deputies say folks are calling, complaining about strange whining and roars and even siren sounds. We're going to tell you why.
Oh my God.
Well, those bugs, they're making the noises. The male cicadas, they sing to attract mates. Now, the noisiest ones can be as loud as jet engines. Many of these bugs, well, they've been dormant underground for more than a decade, so can you blame them for wanting to?
Anyway, just figured we'd watch that for a little bit of fun. Because it's honestly hilarious to me that bugs making sounds made people concerned that their lives were somehow under threat and they needed the police. Oh boy. Cicada's getting 5 to 10. Well played. Well played. Geodragon is your wife. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Who's blocked? You don't appear to be blocked. I can see your message right now. What was I saying? There was something else I was saying. No, I can't remember what it was. God damn it. That totally threw me off. I was like, what? You're not blocked. I can see your words. Dragons. And then there was something before the dragons I was saying. Oh, I was going to say is if you don't know what a cicada sounds like, look it up. It's kind of hilarious. It's very loud. Okay. This is from 5 hours ago from Al Jazeera English. According to them, Brazil land reform protesters are actively occupying unproductive land.
Thousands marching across Brazil demanding land reforms. The protests mark the 40th anniversary of the longest-standing peasants' movement in Latin America's largest country. Since the beginning of April, members of the Landless Workers Movement, or the MST, have organized 30 land occupations in 13 states, establishing camps like this one.
We are doing our duty, pressuring the government to enforce our rights. Brazil's democratic constitution stipulates that unproductive land should be expropriated and distributed to those who need it, so they can grow food and not go hungry.
This land, 300 kilometers away from the city of Rio de Janeiro, used to be a sugarcane plantation. Now the old...
I wonder if we could do that in the United States. And let's just go back and hear what that man said again. This radical individual right here. Brilliant ideas. What was it you said again?
Doing our duty, pressuring the government to enforce our rights. Brazil's democratic constitution stipulates that unproductive land should be expropriated and distributed to those who need it, so they...
Weird. Really weird. If we did that, I think the housing crisis would be solved in 36 hours. Okay, I might be... Okay, I'm going a little crazy with it, but you get what I'm saying. I think.
Grow food and not go hungry.
This
No
land,
way.
300 kilometers away from the city of Rio de Janeiro, used to be a sugarcane plantation. Now the old church serves as the community kitchen. Jaqueline Almeida says she had nowhere to go after her family was evicted. She hopes to build her new home here.
The government has responded by announcing it would invest over $100 million to settle 73,000 families by the end of the year. But activists from the landless workers movement say it's not enough.
Inequality remains a pressing issue in Brazil. Nearly half of the country's arable land is controlled by just 1% of agricultural holdings, and the farm lobby wields significant power in Congress. Its representatives have accused the leftist government of siding with squatters and have proposed a bill allowing the police to expel them without a judicial warrant.
We believe in property rights, and therefore we understand that the laws in Brazil should be strengthened in a way to, not allow this kind of movements to happen.
This poor guy. Oh, my property rights are being impinged upon. Okay. Just figured we should look at that. Those people deserve our solidarity, and I also just love that idea. You know, there's so much land owned by a very small number of people who aren't technically using it for themselves. Maybe if we did that in the United States, we could solve some things. Moving along, let's look at some of the flooding in Africa. This is in Tanzania, where the body count continues to rise as over 150 people have now died as a result of heavy rains and flooding in eastern Africa. How is he even getting through that right now? This guy's just walking through with his motor. Oh my god. Another 6 inches and these cars become boats. Or need to be boats, because not a lot. It would not take a lot for those cars to be fully, at least their wheels to be fully submerged in water, at which point they would no longer really be able to do anything. It's very bold to be just plowing through this right now. It seems to be working out for most people, somehow. You know, aside from the 150 plus people who have died already, not working out for them. This is fine. That's actually a really great emoji representation of that GIF. It's very impressive, Schmegley. So many floods everywhere, and that one's just been going on and on and on. I'm pretty sure right now it's technically monsoon season, but I believe this, like, if I'm not mistaken, from the other reports I've listened to, it's been dramatically increased due to global warming. Whoa, why is my... Okay, there we go. Okay, moving on, we're going to talk quickly about the Great Barrier Reef. Let's watch this from Insider Science. This is actually from 4 years ago. According to them, this is why the Great Barrier Reef could disappear by 2050.
This is the Great Barrier Reef, and it's dying. Less than 20 years ago, the world's largest living structure looked like this. And this. But today, ongoing pressures from climate change put it at serious risk for being wiped out entirely. In fact, in August, an official report by the Australian government downgraded the reef's future outlook from poor to very poor. So how exactly did we get here? And can it be reversed? The Great Barrier Reef is big. So big, in fact, that you can see it from space.
It's important for people to remember that the Great Barrier Reef is much more than just one coral reef, which is what I think a lot of people think. So it's actually 3,000 separate individual coral reefs, and every one of them is in a different condition.
It's also the world's largest living structure, as well as a home to thousands of plant and animal species.
Like with trees in a forest, the corals are really the foundation of the habitat. They provide the structure for other organisms to live there. A normal, healthy coral reef is very colorful. There's tons of fish swimming around. It's often quite loud underwater when you're diving on a coral reef that's healthy. It's just amazing and beautiful.
But this...
Okay. Hold on. I'm just going to move this forward real quick.
Before the 1980s, bleaching events would occur periodically, but never on a mass scale. But global warming has rapidly accelerated this process.
From those coral skeletal records, we know conclusively that coral bleaching is a new phenomenon. The first mass bleaching event that occurred on the Great Barrier Reef was in 1982. As bleaching events are becoming more severe and more frequent, it stymies the recovery, right? It's almost as if you have a hurricane, you start.
See, I don't understand how anybody could even be aware of this data and not accept that climate change is real, not accept that we need to do drastic things to change our system to stop the complete destruction of our own habitat. And it mystifies me why people don't see the existential crisis that is here before us.
Rebuild, and then you get hit by another one.
In fact, a 2019 report by the United Nations warned that if global temperatures increased by just 0.9 degrees Celsius, which is expected to happen, coral reefs could decline by 70 to 90%.
Once again, this is from 4 years ago. We're already over 0.9. We're at 1.2 right now.
And if it warms by 1.8 degrees, 99% of the world's coral could be at risk.
As we approach 2 degrees of warming and go beyond 2 degrees of warming, we are probably not going to be able to protect the Great Barrier Reef anymore, and we're actually going to lose it as the valuable ecosystem that we have.
As if that wasn't enough, the reef is also endangered by local pollution, overfishing, and coastal development.
Okay. Okay, moving on to more current events. This is from 2 weeks ago, where the Great Barrier Reef is currently suffering, and as of today, still doing it, if I'm not mistaken, the most severe coral bleaching on record.
So I've been working on the Great Barrier Reef since 1992, so it's absolutely heartbreaking every time there's a bleaching event. But this one, I'm really struggling with this one, to be honest. The diversity of species involved has been quite hard to deal with, so that when we go out and look at those bleached areas, there are so many different species that are bleached, many of which are usually fairly resistant to bleaching. So as little as 1 degree above the average summer maximum temperature can cause a bleaching event if it lasts long enough. Generally, if we get to 6 to 8 degree heating weeks, we would start to get a fair amount of mortality. This summer, we've had 10 to 12 degree heating weeks across much of the Great Barrier Reef. So this is a pretty alarming event. So this bleaching event again brings us to the question of what we're doing to stop the reef from being lost. And I can't help but wonder what it's going to take for the right decisions to be made. We really are running out of time. We need to reduce our emissions immediately. We cannot expect to save the Great Barrier Reef and to be opening new fossil fuel developments, whether they be coal or gas. So it's time. It's time to act, and there are no more excuses.
Exactly. It is time. Couldn't say it better myself. We are in a very serious moment, and things need to be done about this. Cannot be waiting around for the next generation. We are the generation. Should have been the generation before me, technically, and we'll just move past that. You demand Jessica Fletcher? Is it because you have 30 likes? You'd say, oh wow, oh boy, you do have 30 likes. Okay, hold on, I'll fix it. Watch me fix it. Where are you, Jessica? Jessica. Okay, I think I fixed it. Cool beans. Well done, chat. Well done. Give you a little clap for your efforts. Well, I hope everybody has been enjoying and or learning while hanging out here at the Galactic News Network so far tonight. We're gonna take a quick space intermission. So stretch your legs, grab a drink, grab a snack, maybe take a dip in the space pool here. And yeah, if you haven't already, hit that like button and do consider subscribing. It truly helps the Galactic News Network in growing in this crazy YouTube space that we call home. If you'd like to support me even further, well, you've got one decent option. By going to my Patreon and becoming a Galactic producer. For just a few dollars a month, you can access space benefits that none but you can. Enjoy your break. Be right back, chat.
Consequences.
It's a great day for being sad.
Intermission is sus. Why is this intermission sus? We're like 2 hours into the stream. This is like 30 minutes later than I usually take my intermission, so I don't know what you mean by that.
China? China.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
I don't want reality.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Wow, that one was loud. Why is that one so fucking loud? Hold on. The fuck? The filter's way down on that.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
It's better. Okay, chat. I am back. We have got a lot more to look at. Okay, what is what's next here? The bass is loud. The bass. Slap of the bass. A slap of the bass, man. Okay. So, today happens to be the anniversary of 30 years of freedom for South Africans. So let's talk a little bit about that. Today seems like a good time to do it. This is from AP from 19 hours ago, where South Africans will celebrate that fact. Go Web Go. Now, since it is a important historical anniversary, and considering its relevance in our current moment, I thought we would I thought it would behoove us to take a deeper dive into what apartheid was like, among other things here. So let's start it off with no, I think this is a fine. Yeah, let's do it this way. Let's listen to Democracy Now! From 10 years ago. Polaroid and apartheid, inside the beginnings of the boycott divestment movement against South Africa.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
Amy looks
in the week
like
since
a
the
bunch
passing
younger.
of former South African president and anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela, Democracy Now! Has looked back at the movement to win its freedom and bring an end to apartheid. Well, today we bring you a key part of the story of how the worldwide campaign to use economic pressure helped bring about the fall.
Like, the fact is I listened to this earlier. I did not watch this, so I did not see them looking younger. Totally throwing me off right now.
The worldwide campaign to use economic pressure helped bring about the fall of the apartheid regime, even as powerful countries like the United States continued to support it. The story begins in Cambridge, Massachusetts, when two employees of Polaroid discovered their employer's role in a key part of the oppression of blacks in South Africa.
In a minute, we'll be joined by one of those workers, Carolyn Hunter. But first, this is an excerpt from a film series called Have You Heard from Johannesburg? About this part of the boycott and divestment campaign. We hear first from South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu, then from Caroline Hunter herself, as well as Polaroid Vice President at the time, Peter Wensberg.
We are not asking that you make a political decision. We're not asking you to make an economic decision. We're asking you to make a moral decision. Those who invest in South Africa are upholding
The lip
and
stash.
buttressing one of the most
Yeah, the stash on Juan Gonzalez is pretty. It's pretty hilarious.
vicious systems the world has ever known.
The fact is, I remember, like, I was watching Democracy Now! before like this video came out, but it's just, I don't know. It's just funny to see people change, I think. I'm not even focusing.
Perhaps once or twice in a lifetime, there comes an invention so radical and new, it actually changes the way we live our lives. Less than 2 seconds after you touch the red electric button, the camera hands you the picture. It can reveal the world to you as you've never seen it before.
In Cambridge, Massachusetts, Caroline Hunter, a chemist, and Ken Williams, a photographer, were working at Polaroid in 1970 when they noticed something.
It was really a fluke. Ken and I were going out to lunch, and as we passed through the workplace on our way out, we saw an ID badge made for South Africa. We looked at it and began to say to each other, we didn't know Polaroid was in South Africa.
In South Africa, what Polaroid did was they introduced the kind of technology that would give the government a very effective hold on black people through the past.
Blacks had to carry a passbook on them at all times because they were not considered citizens of South Africa. They were considered citizens of homeland, unfertile grounds where no one could earn a living. To work in the white areas, they lived in labor camps surrounding the cities. All their movements controlled by their pass. The penalty for failing to...
And this is why we're looking at this, right? Like, some of the parallels here are unmistakable.
...to pass was imprisonment.
We really had some sense that no one's free unless everybody's free, and that we had some relationship to black people everywhere. And as workers, we had a right to say what happened to our labor. So we started off just asking the question, what is Polaroid doing in South Africa?
This was certainly viewed very quickly as a major issue. It was something that affected our black employees. It affected our white employees because they had assumed that they were working for a company that was socially responsible.
That was Polaroid Vice President at the time, Peter Wensberg.
It's hilarious.
That's
I was
a
about to
clip
pause
from
it.
Have You Heard from Johannesburg? The 8.
It threw me off. Totally threw me off. I was like, okay, this is a perfect time to pause it. And Amy is like, all right, let's move along. Weird. Feel like we're on the same wavelength right now, but yeah, it, you know, and the fact is like I was technically alive during like 94. I was, you know, I was really young. I was like whatever, like 5 years old or something. But like I had no real understanding of this back then. As I've gotten older, I feel like that's changed quite a great deal. And it's just weird to see how things don't change as much as you think they do, right? Like I feel like looking at how things are being dealt with the Palestinian situation, you know, I feel like I've lost faith to some degree after watching what's been going on in terms of the reaction to it. Yeah, hold on. I'm not gonna watch this whole interview, obviously. Actually, it's multiple interviews. Just want to hit a couple spots in this.
passbooks. Along with her partner, Ken Williams, she formed the Polaroid Workers' Revolutionary Movement to campaign for a boycott. By 1977, Polaroid finally withdrew from South Africa. Caroline Hunter, welcome to Democracy Now!
Good morning.
Well, your thoughts first about that movement back then, the reaction of Polaroid to your questions and your concerns, and especially now in this week after the death of Nelson Mandela.
Well, Polaroid pretended they didn't know what was going on in South Africa, but Polaroid was founded in 1937. In 1938, they opened their first distributorship in South Africa. Reflecting on the death of Mandela, I think we have lost one of the greatest human beings who's ever lived.
Oh, this was during...
And we must learn from his example that one person can truly make a difference in the life of not only his people, but in the life of the world.
Well, Caroline Hunter, you certainly prove that a person can make a difference. Describe the moment when you started to make the connection.
That's right. I guess I am timeless. I'm 10,005 years old. Or I was 10,005 years old in 94. That's what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say.
I mean, this is the early 70s. You're a chemist, a young woman chemist working at Polaroid in Cambridge, Massachusetts, when you realize the connection between apartheid South Africa and your workplace, your work.
Well, it's interesting that I'm in New Orleans when I'm doing this interview, because I learned about apartheid in 10th grade at Xavier University Preparatory High School, where I graduated in '64. And our social studies teacher, Mr. Valder, introduced us to Cry the Beloved Country. And the book resonated with me. The suffering and the pain induced by apartheid moved me at that time as a 10th grader. I saw apartheid again with the Sharpsville Massacre, and then it was out of my mind until that moment at Polaroid. And all I knew then was South Africa was a bad place for black people. We had to educate ourselves. We studied Verwoerd and Milan, the creators and the architects of apartheid, the legislation and the history, traced it back to Nazi Germany, and the fact that population registration and control was a tool, and Polaroid had the technology that made that tool effective and brutal.
And
it's insane to think that Polaroid was involved in it, right? It seems like such a not benign, like a, I guess the wrong way to use that term, but like it's such a problematic company. They just make cameras that take pictures. But you know, this is why I wanted to watch this, because sorry, what's her name again? Caroline Hunter. That's why I wanted to watch it, because she was the leader of the boycott of Polaroid and was part of the BDS movement in the first iteration, essentially. Yeah, and I just thought that was an informative thing, and you know, important for us to add perspective about where we're at right now with Palestine, with the BDS movement there, and everything else, as well as just respecting the plight of South Africans. You know, because things aren't perfect in South Africa still. I would point out that they probably owed more. They probably owed reparations, you know, and I'm not entirely sure if they will ever get anything that would really fix what was done. But anyway, let's move along. I just wanted to watch a tiny snippet of this thing. This is from BBC Newsnight from 10 years ago as well. And it's now making sense why all these were posted from 10 years ago when I was looking for videos on this topic. Because that was the year that Mandela died. I think it was 2000, must have been 2014. But this is like a vintage. This is like from the vault of BBC, showing a bunch of vintage footage from apartheid South Africa. Let's start like right here. Actually, right here.
The security forces had few restraints. As the children rioted, they were ambushed.
Children. Fucking children.
At least 3 coloured youths were killed outright before they could take cover. The police said they were using birdshot designed to wound,
disgusting.
not kill. But at short range, the ammunition was
you're shooting them
still
with
deadly.
shotguns.
Nearby buildings were peppered
Not meant
with
to kill
gunshots.
them. Okay, right.
More than 20 were wounded, 3 of them seriously. Many others were taken secretly to be treated in private for fear of arrest.
Our cameras recorded it in all its brutal intensity and sent the pictures around the world. They hated us.
You people, let's get out now very quickly, okay? Because you people are the fucking cause of this now. So get out.
Okay. Oh, wow.
The battlegrounds of apartheid were the townships.
It's everybody
where
else's
blacks
fault.
were lucky to be allowed to live, though still as foreigners in their own land. 12 miles up the road and a world away was where I lived.
For fuck's sakes.
Our white suburbs were dedicated to the pursuit of graciousness. When our blacks were hungry, we didn't tell them to eat cake, we ate it ourselves. This banquet in aid of the starving was held with the country in a state of emergency, the townships in flames, and drought searing the black homelands. But there were more important things to talk about.
Follow the rich way.
The other world. Millions.
For fuck's sakes. Shotgun shells for birdshot for native South Africans, champagne for Boer South Africans and other white South Africans. Fucking just disgusting. Just a horrific example of history that is not very long ago. Okay, let's watch this also from the archives, but of CBS News, where Nelson Mandela speaks with Dan Rather ahead of South Africa's first free election.
They came to the polls by the thousands in South Africa today, and also around the world, casting absentee ballots from as far away as London, Germany, Israel, and the United States, where some 10,000 South Africans live. Everywhere, there was a sense of history. And when we talked a few days ago with Nelson Mandela, the man expected to become the new president, managing change was uppermost in his mind.
What will be the single biggest change you expect in South Africa?
We will always seek consensus to resolve our problems. And that is going to be a change, because what has happened all along is that a minority government representing a minority, even amongst the whites, has just been dictating. We are doing something exactly the opposite, and we say to the people, what are your concerns? What are your demands? We listen to them. We then respond to them. So that our plan is a product of consultation with the masses of the people. That, I believe, will engender a great deal of confidence in the new South Africa. I think that will be the biggest change.
What will a Mandela government have in the way of relations with the United States?
Mr. Bill Clinton has continued the same attitude and the same policy as George Bush towards us. And it's a source of great inspiration to me that we should have such a warm and positive relationship with the government of the United States of America.
As dusk falls here today, the first day of free and open elections, the general mood of the country is so far so good.
The look on his face is fucking ridiculous. Jesus Christ. But
arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Good old Mandela. Killing it over here. I just realized that I have this completely maxed out on volume. How did that happen?
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Oh, that's so much better. That's so much better. But he's completely right, and you know, his death is a loss to the world, not just South Africans. Now, in case you were incapable of paying attention to any of what we just talked about, let's just watch this to wrap it all up. This is from the BBC News. Apartheid, 46 years in 90 seconds.
Apartheid in South Africa crumbled after Nelson Mandela walked to freedom, but black people suffered decades of government-backed injustice before it did. Apartheid really began in 1948, but separating black Africans from the white minority had long been a policy aim. Laws made white people officially superior, and the large black majority faced discrimination in every aspect of their lives. Living, doing business or owning land in white areas was banned. There were separate public facilities, transport and schools. Interracial marriage was banned. Many had no right to citizenship and were regarded as aliens in major cities. Instead, they were made citizens of Bantustans, homelands scattered throughout South Africa. But resistance grew. In 1960, a huge peaceful protest against past laws ended in a massacre at Sharpeville. 69 people were killed. The deaths galvanized opposition, radicalizing liberation movements like the ANC.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence.
Open conflict erupted in the 1980s, with anti-apartheid activists frequently shot at, beaten or arrested. Mass protests were firmly put down. But little by little, the apartheid establishment crumbled. After gradual reform, Nelson Mandela, in prison since not long after Sharpeville, was set free in 1990. 4 years later, he was elected as South Africa's first black president. Apartheid had ended.
What else happened in 1948? Yeah. No kidding. No kidding, pal. I think we all know what else happened in 1948. Alright, what is next here? I'm gonna skip one. Just because we're running low on time right now. We're getting kind of ahead of ourselves. Yes, if you're unaware, 1948 was the year of the Nakba in Palestine. Moving on. Moving on for a moment. Very momentary. Let's discuss China-U.S. relations. This is from 19 hours ago. Blinken and Wang hold talks, beginning with warnings about misunderstandings and calculations. Fucking Blinken. Overall, the China-U.S. relationship is beginning to stabilize. The two countries have increasingly engaged in dialogue and cooperation across all areas. But the China-U.S. relationship is facing more negative factors and all kinds of disruptions. China's legitimate development rights have been unreasonably suppressed, and our core interests are facing challenges. Should China and the US keep to the right direction of moving forward with stability or return to a downward spiral? This is a major question for our two countries and tests our sincerity and ability.
But in Beijing, the president asked me to travel back to work on moving forward on the agreements that our two presidents reached in San Francisco at the end of last year. Resuming cooperation on counter-narcotics, restarting our military-to-military conversations, looking together at the future of artificial intelligence, its risks, safety issues, and trying to strengthen our people-to-people connections, but also, critically, managing responsibly our differences.
Seems like Blinken's really trying to walk a very fine line right now. Both China and the US are both like I feel like the United States and China are trying to joust each other while on tight ropes, like suspended from like very tall buildings. It's fun. It's a fun vibe. All right, let's just look at this one from 5 hours ago now, where Blinken wraps up his visit in China after meeting with Xi Jinping.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped his trip to China today with a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This week's visit is part of an effort to stabilize relations between the two countries. While in Beijing, Secretary Blinken also urged China to end its support of Russia's war in Ukraine, despite their no-limits relationship with Moscow.
Russia would struggle to sustain its assault on Ukraine without China's support.
CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazas has more from Washington.
Hold on. No, we're not going to listen to this chick. Hold on. Well, we're not going to entirely listen to her. Can't remember where I actually wanted to listen to from on this now. Oh, God. This is why I should take notes. I think like right here.
And you can see that Blinken had a distinctly different reception. There were much fewer red carpets, for example. And that's precisely because he's the one in this administration charged with tackling those harder, more contentious issues in the relationship. Things like human rights in China, Americans who are still being detained there, tensions related to Taiwan, and now, of course, this added thorn of China helping Russia in its war effort. So it's definitely meaningful that there's been this steady clip of diplomatic interactions between the U.S. and China. For a time, those were totally frozen. But it's also quite telling that some of the fundamental challenges in the relationship, in most cases, aren't budging at all, and in some cases, are only getting harder.
Okay. That's all we need from her. We get it. Things are a little tense right now between us and China. And nobody really wants to lose face, if you will. Nobody wants to be seen as blinking, if you will. Blinking. Alright, enough puns and jokes and cultural jokes. What am I doing next? Okay, this is where we're at now. Cool. We are now going to talk a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of bit, about the protests that have been happening, not just in the United States, but around the world. Okay, but first, let's watch this from The Good Liars from a day ago, where they attempt to get jobs at Fox News.
Okay, so we are here outside the Trump courthouse, and a year ago shockwaves went through the United States of America because Tucker Carlson lost his job at Fox News.
Oh no!
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
Still
really sad.
kind of feeling the overwhelming absence, the void on Fox News and in the world.
Because you're a big Fox
since
guy.
that happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll try never
obviously.
to miss
Anything.
that bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lost his job, and this was in the shadow, of course, of the Dominion lawsuit that was happening. Of course, they settled that for hundreds of millions of dollars. Tucker Carlson had some text messages talking about how much he hated Donald Trump.
What did he say? Despised him?
Yeah.
With a passion? Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Despises him with a passion?
It was something
something
like that.
like despised.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we looked at this news, and we thought, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for
Exactly.
Jerome and I, the Good Liars.
I was thinking
to
the
take our
same
game
thing.
to the next level.
Right.
We wanted to get a job at Fox News.
That's right. We put in the work. The way we see it,
Make
we
the
put in the
big
work.
bucks.
We've been out there in the field. We've been talking to people. Maybe we deserve a shot at the prime time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So what do you do when there's a job that you think you have the skill set and the experience to get?
You drop off a resume.
Exactly.
You give them a resume just in case you have the experience and the skills required to do that job. You go there, you take action.
Yeah.
You don't wait till they call you. We don't know if we're in their Rolodex.
Exactly.
We wanted the job.
You can't wait for them to come to you.
Fox News. Now, this might be great news for us because the 8 p.m. time slot is now available. We've been to Trump rallies. We know these people. We know the viewers.
Probably be pretty interested
true.
in our resumes.
They're on the ground.
We're just here to drop off our resumes. Oh, Tucker Carlson lost his job, and we want to replace him at 8 p.m.
It's at 8 p.m. He lies a lot. We're pretty familiar with lying. We have resumes.
Can I leave the resume here?
We are not white nationalists, though, so I'm not sure if that's okay.
Yeah, is that going to be a deal breaker?
We've been to QAnon conferences. We've been to different CPAC events. We've been to Trump rallies.
We think we'd be good. I've got kind of a little boy's haircut, too. Tucker has. Wear bow ties.
Please don't throw it away. Promise you won't throw it away.
Promise you won't throw that away.
Promise you won't throw it away.
Looks good. No.
I can't take it. I can't take it. I don't want to take it. Oh, no.
They took one resume. I don't know. They crumpled it up. Hopefully it makes it to the Fox CEO, Suzanne Scott's office.
Yeah.
So we dropped off the resume.
And unfortunately, I don't think they've heard back yet. So it's really it's a loss for Fox, if you ask me. They're really missing out on an opportunity here to diversify. But hey, I don't run that organization, so I'm not going to give them advice in this moment. I'm not going to step outside of my lane. Okay. There's technically more to that video, but I'm not gonna sit here and watch the whole thing. So you go watch it. You go watch it if you're interested. Before we get into all this stuff, I just wanted to do a little retrospective on protesting and whatnot. So this is a Tucker Carlson interview from 5 years ago, where he and a guest ask the question, are colleges cracking down on free expression?
I don't want reality. Well, Jason Nichols is right in the middle of this debate. He's an actual professor. He teaches African American Studies at the University of Maryland and a frequent guest on this show. Professor, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Tucker.
So it seems like kind of would be a baseline for a university to have pretty much absolute freedom of speech, a prerequisite for freedom of thought. Like, what's the point of having colleges if you can't say whatever you think?
Well, I think number one, in society, we don't have complete freedom of speech.
True.
Of course, there's libel, there's defamation, there is, threats of violence and inciting violence.
Yes.
Those are limits on free speech. So I think we have this idea that freedom of speech means that you can say anything at any time.
No, we know what it is because Brandenburg versus Ohio in 1967, the famous Supreme Court case, very specifically outlined the boundaries of free speech.
Okay.
And so libel is not allowed, of course. Imminent threats of violence are not allowed, but everything else is allowed.
Everything else is allowed.
And
That's
but it's not allowed at Apple or Amazon or some big authoritarian company. Colleges exist.
That's crazy. It's crazy. And what's weird is I couldn't find any. I was looking for them. I looked really hard, chat. I tried to find Because I know he's not at Fox anymore. He's got his own little thing going on. But I couldn't find any clips of Tucker Carlson supporting the Palestine protesters who are being actively suppressed right now. So I was very confused about that. Okay, but let's look at let's come back to reality, as that was 5 years ago. Here's 2 days ago. We're just gonna watch this again real quick. And this is Speaker Mike Johnson telling Columbia protesters to quote unquote go back to class. But what about their free speech, Mike? What about that?
The House has been investigating a number of these campuses. There is a nexus to federal funding. If these campuses cannot get control of this problem, they do not deserve taxpayer dollars. That's a very serious issue. You've seen our Education and Workforce Committee having oversight hearings. We have brought the presidents of these universities to Congress to testify under oath, and you've seen accountability begun there. There'll be much more of that. We'll continue to work on legislation to adjust this at the federal level. This Congress, and I genuinely believe there's bipartisan agreement.
Sounds like federal overreach to me.
On this, we'll stand for what is good and what is right. It does not matter who shouts in our faces. We're going to do what is right by America. We respect.
What if I do this? Huh? A mic?
Free speech. We respect
Do you?
diversity of ideas.
No, you don't.
But there is a way to do that in a lawful manner, and that's not what this is. My message to the students inside the encampment is go back to class and stop the nonsense.
Wow, the free speech is nonsense now. Weird.
Let's do that.
I thought that they had absolute free speech. Tucker Carlson told me so.
Is that right?
What is happening? What is happening? I'm losing it. I'm losing it, chat. This is a Twilight Zone. How is this possible? How is this possible? Tucker Carlson just told us that students deserve absolute free speech as long as it's not inciting violence. And they're not inciting violence. Yet somehow, you know, he's, yeah. I'm just very confused, chat. I just don't get it. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. That's probably what it is. I'm just not able to understand the nuance between absolute free speech and telling kids to go back to class because they're using it. When is it free, Mike? That's what I'd like to know. Okay, now let's look at the actual protests themselves. Okay, this is from 14 hours ago, where students resume pro-Palestinian protests at a prestigious Paris university after police intervention. I think it's at the Sorbonne, but I'm not 100%. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that, actually. If you're not understanding what they're just saying free Palestine, free Gaza. Whoa, what just happened? Why did you just pause? The
We may have been inspired from what is happening at Columbia, at Yale, at Harvard, at UNC, at Vanderbilt, at all these universities in America. But our solidarity remains first and foremost with the Palestinian people.
Okay, I think I have one more of these from Paris. Yeah, this is another one from Guardian News from 10 hours ago, showing more footage of Parisian students protesting in the streets of Paris and on campuses. Students at Paris University have resumed pro-Palestine protests after police broke up a rally earlier this week. Sciences Po University students. Wait, shit. That threw me off. Sciences Po University students blocked access to a campus building. With trash cans, a bike, and wooden platforms used to barricade the doors, they displayed Palestinian flags at windows and could be heard chanting. Young people have been taking action on this for months, and we're not going to give up. We're going to keep mobilizing over the days and weeks and months to come until the genocide in Gaza stops. You're asking as it is. Oh, whoopsies. Well, whatever. We get it. Paris is also now protesting quite vehemently, has been to some degree, but it is coming to a different level at this point. Now let's move on to this question. From Al Jazeera, I believe this is Mark Lamont Hill. Are colleges obstructing free speech for pro-Palestinian student activists?
College students in the United States are taking to their campuses. They're protesting Israel's ongoing war in Gaza, and they're calling on universities to divest and to sever all ties to Israel. This wave of protests began after students at Columbia University set up a Gaza solidarity encampment on April 18th, following the university president's congressional testimony about anti-Semitism on campus. School officials called in the police, who arrested more than 100 pro-Palestinian protesters. Dozens of students were suspended and evicted from university housing. Mariam Alwan is a student at Columbia University and one of the lead organizers with Students for Justice in Palestine. She joins us now. Mariam, so good to see you. Welcome to Upfront.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Mariam, you were one of over 100 student protesters that were arrested on Columbia's campus, and you've also been suspended as a consequence of protesting. Can you talk to me about what happened on April 18th?
So that whole morning, we were anxious, awaiting the police because the school had threatened to call them. We just weren't sure when they would come. And then we also were confused because normally the president is supposed to consult with the university senate before calling the police onto campus. And we later found out that they did not approve the presence of police on campus. In any case, we received word through allies in the administration that the police were coming. And so we all got into the middle of our encampment. We locked arms, began chanting and singing. And then they came on suddenly all at once, and they started picking us off one by one and taking us to the corrections vans. And even when we were going to the precinct, we were continually chanting as we were going in to take our mugshots. It was as if the protests never ended. So the sense of community made the whole experience feel a little bit better than it could have been.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to catch a snippet of that interview there. And because we got a lot more of these protests to look at, and that's just discussing one event from a week ago, over a week ago now. So we got a ways to go on these protests here. Alright, where am I at? There's footage all looks the same. Okay, there it is. Alright, we're going to start at Columbia, and then we're going to move along to the west coast in America. I think that's how I have it set up, at least. So yeah, this is in New York. Pro-Palestinian protesters dig in at Columbia University encampment as negotiations continue.
Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free
Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Divest! Disclose! We will not stop, we will not rest! Divest! Disclose! We will not stop, we will not rest! Divest! Disclose! We will not stop, we will not rest! Divest! Disclose! We will not stop, we will not rest!
Okay. And now let's look at this next video, which may be upsetting to some people, but I think it's important to see the distinction between this and the rest of what we see here tonight. So this is from the AP from 9 hours ago, where pro-Israeli demonstrators gathered at Columbia University on the streets and sidewalks. You'll see, they filled the entire street. It's completely barricaded and seemingly guarded by cops. Okay, maybe they're not in the street. They're just blocking the sidewalk. I take that part of it back. It just looked like the street. That's my bad. Either way, you can see,
active terror may have ended on,
as you can see, there's zero police presence, essentially.
but they are still
Near zero.
victims of terror being terrorized on a daily basis for 203 days. But it's not a good morning.
Everybody's going completely unbothered. In public, not even at a university, outside of a university, protesting in a counter-protest, I'd point out, against students, essentially. I mean, that's what it genuinely feels like when you all show up outside of a university. I'm not sure if they're saying that directly, but certainly with actions. But it's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. Especially when we look at these next videos, which are, in many cases, somewhat disturbing. As I've kind of compiled what's happened over the last 24 hours at different protests around the United States, at universities and colleges, and the police response is heavy-handed. That's the best way to describe it. Barbaric, totally fucked, and unconstitutional. Complete violation of civil rights. But pro-Israel supporters get zero handcuffs, 0 punches to the face. Anyways, let's move along. This is a day ago, a shocking video. Pro-Palestinian protesters are arrested by police at Emory University in Atlanta. Jesus fucking Christ.
Stop kicking. We just want to walk.
You hear that one girl saying that she goes to this school, screaming and being arrested for using her free speech on campus. I'd point out your speech is not free if you can't use it when it inconveniences the powerful. Jesus Christ. You see, they threw that girl to the ground. Like, through the air. She was like 3 feet in the air.
A wave of student...
Okay. That was, by the way, that was at Atlanta, Emory University of Atlanta, Yeah, they're just smashing and whipping children. Well, not children, young adults. They're students, so probably all over 18. But let's listen to Democracy Now! Here, where they have one of the Emory students. Actually, I think they might have two of them on. I can't remember. But they interview at least one of the Emory students here. Let's listen.
Protest against Israel's war in Gaza continues to spread from coast to coast across U.S. campuses. From California to Connecticut, students have set up Gaza solidarity encampments to call for an end to the Israeli assault and for university divestment from Israel and the U.S. arms industry. University administrators have responded by calling in law enforcement, forcibly removing encampments, arresting students and faculty, and suspending students. More than 500 arrests have been made on campuses nationwide in just over a week. One of the most violent police crackdowns took place at Emory University in Atlanta Thursday. Local and state police swept onto the campus just hours after students set up tents on the quad to protest Israel's war in Gaza, as well as the planned Atlanta Police Training Center known as Cop City. Police were accused of using tear gas, rubber bullets, and stun guns to break up the encampment as they wrestled people to the ground. One video shows multiple officers restraining a protester as they apply and hold a taser to his leg, as students around him yelled for them to stop. In an email addressing the situation shortly afterwards, the president of Emory University wrote several dozen individuals, quote, largely not affiliated with the university entered the campus for the protest, disrupting the Emory community amidst final exams. The university later said 20 of the 28 people arrested had ties to the school. Among those arrested were a number of faculty members, including the chair of the philosophy department at Emory University, Noelle McAfee. A bystander filmed her being led away in handcuffs.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do for you right now?
Yes, can you call the philosophy department office and tell them I've been arrested?
Philosophy department?
Yes, call the philosophy department.
I'm just going to point this out for anybody, watching this right now. If you're arresting the philosophy department chair for free speech and protest, you're arresting the wrong person. You probably shouldn't be arresting anybody. Like, if they were at the protest, most likely, not 100%, there's probably some people out there who are fucked in the head. But I'm just going to point that out. If your entire life is ethics, might have the right sort of opinions on these sort of things.
Well, Democracy Now! Spoke to Professor Noelle McAfee after she was released from custody on Thursday. She described what happened.
I was on campus this morning early for a long day meeting, and I saw that there was an encampment, and I heard some peaceful chanting. I thought I would just go and see how it was going, and also was concerned because in the past, Emory University has not just called out their own police to monitor things, but the Atlanta police. And a moment after I got there, I saw the troopers coming up. I'm not sure if they were the Georgia troopers or the Atlanta police, but they were coming up. The students were protesting with tents and all, and I was just wanting to watch, and I wandered over, and I saw suddenly things took a turn. From the students got up to start marching, and then I couldn't see exactly from where I was. They were just being attacked by the police. Over a few seconds, the police were attacking. I could hear rubber bullets. Then I smelled or tasted the tear gas, and then I saw in front of me a student on the ground with 3 or 4 policemen pummeling the student, just pummeling and pummeling. And I tried to video it. I was standing there about 3 feet away from it, and it went on for like a minute or two, and I screamed, "What are you doing?" And then they stopped pummeling the student, and a policeman stood in front of me and said, "You need to leave." And I felt like the person who just needed to stay and witness what had just happened. And so I stood there several feet away, and then he started dragging me off and putting my hands behind my back and took me in. He took me around the side.
Exactly. You got to get rid of all the witnesses too, right? I mean, what the fuck? What the fuck? She did nothing at all. She is a faculty member, and a police officer is putting her in handcuffs, and fucking not even, I think it wasn't even handcuffs, it was in zip ties. Like some sort of, like, hate to say it because it's not right in this situation either, but like some sort of prisoner of fucking war. You know, like treating her like some sort of animal, dragging her away just because she's a witness to what is probably a constitutional crime, a deprivation of civil rights, and yeah, it is disgusting. And unfortunately, we have a bunch more stuff to look at, so we can't watch all of her interview, but we are gonna hit on at least all of the interviews in here. We're gonna try.
Jailed for 4 hours, charged with disorderly conduct. And we're joined by Umaima Mohammed, an MD, PhD student, Palestinian-American organizer at Emory who took part in the protests. We welcome you both to Democracy Now!
The guns they're carrying around? Yeah. No, it's insane. No, it is fucking, they look like assault rifles. Why do they need those? Why do they need those? Defund.
Mr. Emil Kameh, you were arrested. Why were you out at the protest as people started to begin the encampment? And explain what happened to you.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Yeah, I was just going to work. I was going to my office to prepare my classes. I was supposed to teach yesterday, and then I ran into some of my students who were participating in the protest, and I went up to say hi to them, and I also saw some of my colleagues. So I was talking to them, and then somebody had mentioned that that the university had called the police, and pretty soon they got there, and I literally felt that I was in a war zone when I saw the police with all the gear, and then like they immediately began to forcibly remove.
It's disgusting. These cops are fucking cowards. Why do they need body armor and helmets and shields and guns and all of these other things, tasers, and for peaceful protests? They're obviously peaceful. They have tents. They're very chilling, hard chill, and yet that level of military response from the police is disgusting. It's just ridiculous. And you know what? Hold on, I'm just gonna move a little bit forward here.
Umaima Mohammed into this conversation. Umaima, you're a MD, PhD student at Emory. Can you talk about these protests that you helped to organize and why you felt it was so key to take the stand on campus?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are past the 7-month mark of this genocide. And on our campus and in our community, we have repeatedly organized peacefully to put pressure on our institutions, especially at Emory, to stop harassing and doxing students and to stop repressing speech around Palestine and to divest from the Israeli apartheid state. And every single time, Emory shuts us down. Every single time they crack down and they punish students. Every single time they silence our voices. And at some point, we decided that we no longer accept our tuition dollars and our tax money going to fund an active genocide.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, the main motivation for a group of students and community members and faculty and graduate students coming together so powerfully in this moment to say, we just reject this. We refuse to move until Emory listens to divesting from both the apartheid state of Israel and Stop Cop City.
Look at this shit. They're armed to the fucking teeth, like they're fighting a war. These people are, they're definitely more heavily armed than Hamas.
I don't want reality.
Okay, I'm just fucking with you, but you get what I'm saying. Although, you know what? That might actually be don't know. I'd have to think about if that's accurate or not. It might be. What is the police budget for Atlanta? Alright, it's not that important. But before we move on from Atlanta and Emory University, I just want to watch the actual footage of this other professor being thrown to the ground with her head being smashed into the pavement and being arrested by 2 cops.
This is breaking news on Fox 30.
There you go. Jesus Christ. Let's go back, because we have to see what it was she was doing when this happened, and you're going to realize it was fuck all. She's just standing here asking these police officers to stop assaulting this dude who was just exercising his civil rights. Get on the ground. Get on the ground, I said, go! Oh my God! Oh my God! Give me some cops! My head! My head! Just in my head! On the concrete!
Oh my God! You people are fascists! You are Hitler! You are rabid dog! Shame on you! May you never live another day!
You can hear her screaming over everybody saying, I'm a professor.
This is an Emory professor, everyone! I am a professor of economics! You are rabid dogs! You are fascists!
It was a peaceful protest until they started fighting troopers. I agree with you.
People only started fighting when they started getting grabbed by cops. That is what the footage shows. Illegal use of police force.
Illegal.
Fucking disgusting. Just disgusting. These people are armed to the goddamn teeth, attacking teachers and students. And it's insane. It's insane. It's fucking insane. Are you going to bed? Okay. Well, if you need sleep, you gotta get sleep. No big deal, so life. You've modded for like 3 hours or something, and I appreciate you. Yeah, her glasses were hit off on the sidewalk. They get scuffed around on the ground as she's getting her face smashed into the pavement. No regard for this woman who was literally just watching 6 police officers like put their knees on the back of this person in a show of unnecessary, unjustified force. And it's just gross. This is fascism. 100%. Okay, let's move on to Denver now. I'm struggling to find my place because all these protests look the same. It's just a bunch of jackbooted thugs attacking pro-Palestinian protesters. Meanwhile, remember that image back at Columbia that we looked at? It was like 6 videos ago, 7 videos, maybe not that many, like 6 videos ago now, where pro-Israeli demonstrators were going unabated outside of a college campus. So, the difference couldn't be more stark. I struggled to find a single cop in the footage that we were looking at. I think I saw one, and they were just kind of minding their own business, not looking at all concerned. Okay, let's go to Denver, where officers detained more pro-Palestine protesters at Denver's Aurora campus. I'm not sure where exactly Aurora is, but Denver area. Now, I'm just going to say this about this footage, and don't take this the wrong way, or, well, here's what I'm going to say, is that these protesters, like, from this footage, you can see everybody's broken up and not together so much. Holding and linking arms is one thing, but it is my thinking that creating a solid unit of human bodies is more effective strategy, especially in deterring attacks. If we want to talk tactics right now, if you're being attacked by fascist thugs, well, you know, banding together as a unit is better than doing this. That's just my thinking. But still, obviously they deserve our our support. I'm just, when I saw this I think it's helicopter footage,
for an end to the war in Gaza,
it just
with
made
Israel.
me start thinking
They've been
about
out there
how,
for about the last day or so.
how this makes it easier for these police away. You can see this is completely peaceful. There's a guy with a drum. He's the only one that's even close to police. Everybody else is just doing literally nothing, completely peaceful, and yet keep getting framed by a certain side as though it's some sort of violent riot. Hold on. Can't remember if this actually shows the footage of them being arrested. Oh yeah, I think it does. Yeah, hold on. This is like right when it starts. Civil rights are being stripped actively in front of our faces right now as a genocide happens on the other side of the world that's being funded by our tax dollars. Meanwhile, our tax dollars fund the boots on the ground in our own country, attacking our own citizens using their civil rights. It's crazy. Crazy. Okay, let's move on from, what was that, Denver to Chicago now at Northwestern University, where students there are also protesting the war in Gaza. Sorry, genocide. Just reading titles and offending myself.
We could not just sit here and not do anything, not support, not help in any way that we can for the genocide that's happening in Palestine with the Palestinian people. This has happened before to the Jews in the Holocaust, and we are watching history repeat itself.
100%.
It's science.
Okay. Now moving on from Chicago, but you can see there is an encampment there as well on Northwestern's campus. And honestly, Northwestern has a really beautiful old campus. I've actually been there before. Okay. What's next? Alright, we're gonna move to the West Coast now. This is from CBS News. Bay Area pro-Palestinian encampment springs up on Stanford's campus. Oh wait, no, I got ahead of myself. No. This is actually a Wall Street Journal report showing that police are using tasers at university crackdown on police on pro-Palestinian protests. police in Georgia use a taser on a demonstrator. He's just holding it on his leg. What the fuck? What in the fuck is this guy doing? What in the fuck was that? This is what I get for not watching and only listening to most of my videos. Jesus fucking Christ. How long is he doing that for? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He did it for at least 10 seconds. That footage ended before he stopped. That is fucking disgusting. That is fucking disgusting. Hundreds have been arrested across the country since the protests began at Colombia. Demonstrators are calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and for universities to divest from companies that are involved. Universities say protests are disrupting learning and Jewish students. God damn it. Stop this. Why are you going so fast? Jewish students have said that they feel unsafe. Only some, because there's a lot of Jewish students at the protests. Administrators around the U.S. have been rethinking plans for graduation amid the unrest. I'm just gonna stop reading the fucking Wall Street Journal's words. I hope you don't mind. Just fuck them. You know? Like, honestly. Like, fuck the Wall Street Journal. They can go fuck themselves. I mean, they're kind of complicit in this whole thing. After that, Ryan Grimm, what's the name of his? No, it's not The Intercept, is it? I can't remember the name of his publication. But after they did that story on Wall Street, on Wall Street Journal, being involved. Wait, was it the Wall Street Journal? No. Was it? No. No. I think I'm. Am I conflating two stories right now? God damn it. I have to look it up now, Chad. I just can't help it. I have to know. It is The Intercept. Okay. It is The Intercept. I was right about that. Was it the Wall Street Journal? The Washington Post? Where can I find it? It was the New York Times. Ah, thank you. Okay, I finally figured it out. I knew it was wrong. Like, when I said it, I was like, it just doesn't sound right. Hold on, I'll be right back. Gotta deal with something. Alright, I'm back. We got more stuff to look at here. Now we're going to look at the encampment on Stanford in California.
Well, we have the latest on the national wave of protests on the war in Gaza on college campuses all across the country, starting at Stanford University, where their students have joined the fight. This was the scene on Stanford's campus last night. Hundreds of students set up tents and signs saying, "Divest now and hands off Rafah." They plan to stay until the university meets their demands. We talked to one student protester who says he's risking a whole lot for a cause he sees as bigger than himself.
Say I were to get arrested or say I were to be expelled or suspended from the school, that would deeply impact me and my family because I support them with money that I get from here. And in understanding that, I weighed the personal consequences and my own personal beliefs and felt compelled to do what I can to be out here.
Ramirez says Stanford sent out mass emails to a student body that suspension or expulsion is possible if they violate student policies. Meanwhile, students at UC Berkeley have entered day 4 of their campout in front of Sproul Plaza. They demand the university name Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide and cut all corporate ties with the country. As other campuses across the country see arrests by police, you may be wondering why we have not heard of any arrests on Bay Area campuses. Well, Cal released a statement saying they will not involve law enforcement unless it's absolutely necessary to protect the physical safety of the campus community.
Wow, what a radical idea. They're not going to interfere in any nonviolent political protests. Huh. Sounds incredibly constitutional.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Okay. Moving along. Just wanted to hit that up because of that. Just found that interesting. All right, let's watch this. What time is it? Yeah, seems fine. Let's watch this from 13 hours ago, where John Kirby went on MSNBC and said that there was, quote-unquote, no evidence that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza.
I don't want reality.
Go Eb, go. Oh, there we go.
About setting up communications links, military.
Okay, but we're not going to listen to most of this. This is like 10 minutes long. I had to like...
to military.
Yeah. Hush. We are not going to listen to 10 minutes of John Kirby. You can count on that. I'm trying to remember where he starts saying the dumbest stuff. I think it's near the very end of this interview. Yeah. It's like right here.
Netanyahu, but the one before that, the president was very firm that he needed to see
us. What can you do to make that situation better for all those people suffering inside of Gaza?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, as you probably saw, I mean, in his, not the last conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu, but the one before that, the president was very firm that he needed to see changes on the Israeli side about access to humanitarian assistance, or we were going to have to look at changes to our Gaza policy. And so, in response, the Israelis have opened up more crossings. They have increased the hours at which many of those crossings are open, and they have generally increased the number of trucks that have been getting in. In one day in particular, there was more than 300. There's been a couple of thousand over just the last week or two. That's good, not good enough. It's got to be sustained. We've got to see it increase even more. We also have to make sure that those aid workers feel safe on the ground distributing that assistance.
No kidding,
and that includes
really.
Up to North Gaza, where there's still quite a number of refugees that are in desperate need.
Yeah,
We're also conducting
they are
airdrops.
there.
We continue to do that. That's not the best way to get volume in, but we're not getting rid of that as an option. And of course, even as you and I
This guy is such a useless human being.
speak, Willie, the United States military is working to collect and assemble in
Skip
the
forward.
area off the coast of Gaza this temporary pier.
Hush.
A couple of weeks away
Be
to
quiet.
get assistance.
Campuses, some of them. Admiral, I know you've got to run. Just quickly before we go, you've seen these
There we
protests on the campuses, some of them getting out of control. It has become gospel among some of those protesters, the pro-Palestinian protesters, that Israel is committing genocide and that the Biden administration is supporting a genocide in Gaza. Do you see any evidence of Israel committing genocide in Gaza?
Absolutely not. No.
No, he had no evidence? Has he just been like locked in a room without an internet connection for the last 6 months? What the fuck is this guy talking about?
No, there's no evidence. The Israeli soldiers are not getting up, getting out of the rack, putting their boots on in the day and saying, hey, I'm going to go commit genocide.
That is not the definition of genocide. People don't have to get up every day and pray to genocide. They just have to do it. And that's what's been happening. And you're just... This guy is just so fucking gross. And I'm sorry that we're listening to this, but this shit coming out of him is just on another level.
I'm going to go wantonly murder innocent Palestinians. Now, that said, there has been, and the president has talked about this, too many civilian casualties. The number needs to be 0, and there are too many people starving, too many people...
The number can't be 0 because it's already at 40,000, not counting injured. If you count injured, it's over 100,000. So I don't know why you would even try and make that argument. And to be honest, the rest of this entire interview is equally bad, but just on a number of topics. That one was just the one that, to me, was probably the most frustrating of all of them. Okay, now let's move on to some more shit here. This is from Al Jazeera English, 10 hours ago. Arming genocide. New report documents use of U.S. arms in Israeli war crimes.
A newly released report suggests that U.S. weapons provided to Israel have been used in a way that systematically disregards the principles of international law. The unabated supply of U.S. arms to Israel, the report's authors argue, could be in violation of a new White House memorandum known as the National Security Memo 20, or NSM 20. The memo, released in February, requires recipients of U.S. foreign assistance to provide written assurances that they will comply with U.S. and international law and not impede U.S. efforts to provide humanitarian assistance. But after months of Israel's actions in Gaza, from striking refugee camps and family homes to killing more than 200 humanitarian aid workers, the authors argue that there is mounting evidence to suggest that U.S. arms are being used in ways that contravene international law. Joining us to discuss this are two of the authors of the report. Noura Erekat is a human rights lawyer and professor at Rutgers University, and Josh Paul is a former senior official at the U.S. Department of State who resigned this past October in protest of increased U.S. arms sales to Israel. He's now a non-resident fellow at Democracy for the Arab World. Now, I want to thank you both for joining me. Noura, I'm going to start with you. Can you share some findings of the report, some key findings, specifically what evidence you found that indicates that U.S. arms sales to Israel could be in violation of U.S. law and international law, particularly the ones discussed in Biden's memo?
Absolutely. I want to emphasize, Mark, that National Security Memorandum number 20 isn't anything new, but actually lifts pre-existing laws that have not been enforced as they should have. And it includes international humanitarian law. Understanding very well that international humanitarian law is often contested and can be a slippery terrain. 2/3 of our report focuses on U.S. law alone, on civil harm mitigation and U.S. military best practices, as well as 620I of the Foreign Assistance Act. And then when we're looking at IHL, humanitarian law, we're looking at a customary international law that is less contested. Based on that framework, we found things that were really striking, right? That included, we document 16 incidents that are credible, that are compelling, that are undeniable. 11 out of those 16 incidents, there wasn't even a target that Israel said that it was trying to attack.
You say incidents of the U.S.
U.S. provided weapons. So we're focusing specifically on those instances where Israel used U.S. provided weapons. So we take thousands of lines of data. And from that, we're looking in which of these instances are there credible violations of law, and then in those instances, which of those are used by, are supplied by U.S. weapons, and then we evaluate them.
Wow. And you found 16.
Well, we found far more than 16. We decided to focus on 16 to provide an analysis for them, including and then included an 18-page annex for the White House to use. The objective here is that the Departments of State and Defense are supposed to write their own report.
Jesus Christ. The evidence is so huge. It's undeniable at this point. Hold on, I'm just gonna move this a little bit further here.
continues to arm Israel?
So I know
Oops.
from colleagues inside the department that there are an increasing number of people who are declining to be a part.
Go back.
To say everybody has a role to play. And it empowers people to think about what is the role they should play.
Are there other legal instruments that could be used against the United States if it continues to arm Israel?
So I know from colleagues inside the department that there are an increasing number of people who are declining to be a part of this because precisely they are afraid of being on holiday in Italy one day and having a knock on the door and saying the ICC would like to talk to you. That does have an impact, and what I would say to the colleagues who are not stepping back from this work is that they should be thinking about that as well. Because there is some real liability here, both for government officials who are authorizing the transfer of weapons and for those in the defense industry who are, building the arms that are being used. And I think, any level of due diligence would tell them that the arms they are making will be used to kill thousands of civilians. There are also claims that are going to be made and that are being made in domestic courts both around the country, but also internationally.
Yeah. And before he moves on, because I can't remember if he does. I think he does. But like getting a knock on the door from The Hague, yeah, that's gonna be one of the the scarier sort of knocks that you get.
There are a lot of crimes here that have universal jurisdiction, and the fact that the US justice system may or may not be an effective tool in this case does not mean that there will not be justice systems in Europe or in Latin America, or for that matter in Africa, where such cases cannot be brought. And once those are, then those charges, are significant and will have an impact on people.
This includes a case that was filed against Israeli President Isaac Herzog upon his disembarkment in Davos, for example. So we've already seen a precedent being set. We see similar commitment to bring those cases in South Africa as well as in the UK by independent lawyers. And so what we see now is going to be the beginning of something that will be ongoing.
Okay. Cool. We hit the points that I wanted to there, I think. Yeah. Wonton murder? Good God. Good God, Soul Life. Food puns. Okay. What's next? I keep losing track of this because it just all looks the same right now. There it is. Okay. This is a video that was suggested to me by somebody in the Discord. This is something I missed somehow from a day ago from Global News, where a group of Israelis attempt to march on Gaza to build settlements in the Strip. A group of Israelis who camped overnight near the Gaza border marched towards Gaza in an attempt to enter the Strip and build settlements there. Israeli police blocked the roads to prevent the group
the
from
goal
entry.
long term is to build settlements there, to return to the situation which we had before the expulsion in 2005, in which we have permanent civilian settlements, not just military. Specifically, we want civilian settlements in the Gaza Strip to return to the situation we had before 2005. We gave them their land unilaterally without preconditions. They returned to us with death and destruction.
Wow.
Completely. So, and the only
That's
way
not what
to
happened.
prevent that from happening again is to return the entire Strip.
These kids have been taught a completely different reality than the truth. And it's really gross to hear it come out from people as young as these kids here.
Sovereignty to
They look like they're
return
the
it
Boy
to be an
Scouts.
integral part of the land, which it was always meant to be, and that way, that's the only real way to bring peace.
It's important to do it now.
The only way to bring peace is by settling more Palestinian land? This kid is insane.
Before Bibi decides to give it back before the end of the war, because I think that is a big possibility of something.
She seems so sad about the idea of Palestinians getting their land back. You see her? She's like on the verge of fucking tears right now. What the fuck is going on?
That could happen.
Every place that there are Jews is one less place for them to attack us from. I think we've built beautiful settlements back when we had Gush Katif, and I think we could build more again.
Jesus Christ. The way that they speak about this, the timbre of their voices, the sort of like this sort of hopeful, it just, I'm like losing my ability to talk about it because I don't even want to say the words on what I'm seeing. It's just so reprehensible, so frustrating. We've got some more to look at here. This was from 6 hours later from Al Jazeera English, where they discuss illegal settlements expanding as the Israeli government approves new projects. Probably those kids' parents.
Since October the 7th, Israel's government has accelerated the approval of several illegal settlement projects in occupied East Jerusalem, the first approvals in more than a decade. The Housing Ministry published plans for the construction of thousands of housing units in the Palestinian neighborhoods of Beit Saf.
I gotta pause this, because I think what frustrates me so much about it is like when I look at videos like that, I see a group of young people who have essentially been brainwashed into believing some of the most horrific propaganda that exists in this modern era. And it's not the only example of that in this world, but it is a stark and shining example of this horrific sort of thinking. And you know, I don't hear any cries about indoctrination or grooming from any of the usual folks about this kind of stuff, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing that they're supposedly warning about. And once again, silence, while children are used as a political and military weapon in essentially creating more settlements illegally against international law involving children in that. It's disgusting. It disgusts me.
Illegal settlement projects in occupied East Jerusalem, the first approvals in more than a decade. The Housing Ministry published plans for the construction of thousands of housing units in the Palestinian neighborhoods of Beit Safafa and Sur Behet in the southern part of the city.
What Israel is trying to do with this neighborhood is to build on what we are seeing as the last empty land that these villages having. Like, think about a neighborhood like Tzubaher or others. Eventually, they are trapped and they don't have any places to expand. In the same time, we must remember Israel is not advancing Palestinian neighborhood in East Jerusalem.
It's a bureaucratic process that could sometimes take up to 10 years for approval, but multiple ministries in the right-wing government have given the go-ahead during the war on Gaza. Activists say the time between the settlement's date of authorization and the public announcement was relatively short, something rights groups are calling unprecedented. Two of the illegal settlement projects advanced by the Israeli government will be right here in the Palestinian town of Beit Safafa. But Israeli human rights organizations say that building on these lands will harm potential territorial continuity between Bethlehem and occupied East Jerusalem, making the real...
Exactly. It's just going to continue to split up the region in a way that, like, continues to make the situation more opaque, more convoluted, and causing more problems between Israelis and Palestinians when they should be attempting to do the opposite. When they're supposed to be having a ceasefire, they're taking territory. They're literally building on land illegally in contravention of international law and further inflaming tensions. It is fucking gross.
Of a two-state solution nearly impossible. Palestinians here believe the land grabs are just one of many attempts to push them out.
They want to expel us. They want to
uproot every single Palestinian from the land of Palestine. They want us to go out, to leave the area, to have no space for us, to strangle, to put a tie, a road around our necks, and then to oblige the young people to find another place where to live.
Despite international criticism, Israel's government continues to implement policies that violate international law and further deteriorate the livelihoods of Palestinians.
Okay, we still have more frustrating stuff to look at before we get to our final video, which is slightly uplifting, but not too uplifting. Okay, this one is from 14 hours ago, where Israel is amassing dozens of tanks and armored vehicles along the border with the southern Gaza Strip, where I'm pretty sure they are planning this invasion of Rafah. Which needs to not happen. This is near Kerem Shalom in southern Israel. Holy fuck, look at the number of vehicles they have out here. It's just row after row after row after row. Jesus. This is really, really frustrating to see them getting ready for this. Supposedly Biden told them it was unacceptable, or they needed to move them out. But first off, the moving out part is completely unacceptable to begin with. But they seem ready to go. They seem like they're gonna do this, and I am like at the end of my rope. I cannot believe like what we're looking at right now. Just gonna go back to this image. This is what they're preparing for. I mean, look at it. It's a civilian. It's a goddamn refugee camp, people. Rafah is a refugee camp. It is. We looked at images of it recently, and it is just 30 football fields of tents. Those people can't defend themselves from anything, let alone hundreds of tanks. It needs to stop. And this is from 3 hours ago, where NBC News wakes up to the like reality of what's going on for the first time in 6 months. So prepare yourself for this video. This is our penultimate video, by the way. We have one more after this. But yeah, let's listen to NBC wake up to the reality of the fact that Israeli airstrikes are taking place in areas in Gaza that Israel had designated as safe zones. Wow, NBC finally realized that. It's been going on for months and months and months.
March 26, 2024, 4 p.m. The aftermath of an airstrike in Rafah in southern Gaza. Victims buried under the rubble. Rima Shabir is rushed to the hospital as her father attempts first aid. An NBC News investigation reveals that this is one of at least 7 deadly strikes in areas our Gaza team filmed after the IDF had explicitly designated them as safe in December. This one in Rafah.
I don't want reality.
This is like, it would be hilarious if it wasn't so fucking sad. NBC, a goddamn, like, I don't know exactly how much they're worth. I feel like they're like $1 billion organization, or at least part of $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar organization, who are just now, today, 3 hours ago, realizing, oh, geez, Israel is striking places they said they weren't. They told Palestinian civilians that they were safe in, and it's like, dude, I have a $0 budget over here, and we've known this for months at this stream. How are you just now waking up to this fact?
Al-Zahur neighborhood, identified as one of 3 evacuation zones in a leaflet dropped over Gaza, and on the Israeli military's website in a map last updated in December. When asked if there was anything more recent, the IDF told us the map was, quote, still accurate. Our investigation reveals that the IDF targeted Al-Zahur, Al-Shabura, and Tal el-Sultan after it told residents to head there. On January 9th, an airstrike in Tal el-Sultan. The attack hits the home of the Nufal family there, killing 15. On February 12, 2024, our crews filmed the aftermath of an airstrike on Al-Shabura camp. They asked us to go to the Shabura area because it is safe. This is the safe area? Look around you, what happened, this man says. On April 20th at 10 p.m., also in the Shabura district, a building leveled. Among those killed, a pregnant woman who NBC News reported on earlier this week. Her premature...
I just want to take this back, because I said we have a $0 budget here. We technically have a double-digit budget at this moment, thanks to the patrons. But technically it's not a $0 budget, and therefore I must rescind that statement. But it's nothing near that of NBC.
Baby briefly survived, but died days later. We asked the Israeli military multiple times to comment on the strikes documented in our report, providing precise locations and dates. It addressed one of the attacks, replying, "The IDF is not aware of any strike at the provided coordinates and times in the query," blaming Hamas for telling people to ignore military directives, adding, "The IDF will act against Hamas wherever it operates with full commitment to international law." Human Rights Watch program director Sari Bashi tells us these strikes are not isolated incidents.
They go to the places they were told to go to.
Wait, NBC is valued at $7.25 billion? Jesus Christ. Jesus. For fuck's sake. Why? Why? Oh my god. Well, it tells you just how far those dollars from the Patreon supporters are going, okay? Because they've got a 10-figure budget, we got a 2-figure budget, and we're still doing better than they are somehow.
And then they get hit either by an airstrike or by a ground force invasion. Is there anywhere safe in Gaza? No, there's nowhere safe in Gaza.
For the almost 1.5 million Palestinians crowded in southern Gaza, there is nowhere left to flee. And for...
Okay. Moving along. Oh, that's... All of that information is painful to me. I wasn't expecting to actually know how much they're worth. $7 billion. I think they get some fucking reporters on the ground. Okay. Whatever. Totally worth it. Let's move on. This is our final video. Well done, everybody made it this far. Give yourself a little pat on the back. You did it. You did it. Okay. This is from the AP from 13 hours ago, where rabbis were arrested in Israel while protesting and demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. Ooh. Excuse me. If you didn't see that sign, it said permanent ceasefire now. I can agree with that sign. Why does that guy look like Sam Bankman-Fried? Oh, Jesus Christ.
One of the reasons we're doing this right now is that we're in the middle of Passover. Many of us, including myself, are rabbis, and a big part of the Passover celebration is about food. The main symbol of Passover that everybody knows is matzah. Matzah, the unleavened bread, is a symbol of both the difficulty of the exodus, of having to leave Egypt so quickly, but it's also a symbol of freedom. And what this means is that even in this moment, we are not providing the Gazan people with the basic fundamentals they need to be able to even envision liberation like we had from Egypt. Passover
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Our liberation from Egypt. Passover is the season of our liberation, and we want it to be a season of liberation for all people, because no people are free unless all people are free.
A sentiment I wish existed more predominantly within the Israeli population, because it's not, doesn't seem to be the sort of sentiment we hear from from Israelis at these protests usually. So that's why I wanted to watch that one. Actual evidence of some people, a very few, and you could tell that man is American Israeli, and you know, it's just it just felt slightly upbeat, positive, optimistic, even though I know it means so little. Was he wearing a Sonics? Yeah, he was. That's vintage as fuck. I didn't even think about it until you're saying it in chat now. But yes, it was a Seattle Supersonics hat. Yeah. Did he look like Sam? That's what I was saying. The dude straight up looked like Sam Bankman. Okay, I wasn't losing my mind.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Well, looks like we made it through another journey through the void. Together, hopefully we can conquer all. Unfortunately, this stream did not end in justice. It still exists all over this world. But that's it for me, Streamlord. Till I see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Well, I can't forget these people. These are your galactic producers. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Robot Cat, Pitchfork's Dragon, the Anti-Corporatist, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. These individuals made the right decisions in life, leading them to here, where they're able to support the Galactic News Network and everything that we do here. You too can become a Galactic producer by clicking this link in chat, where for a few dollars a month you can unlock space benefits worthy of universal acclaim.